I said, don't forget, we have a bonus.
We have a bonus today, guys. You hear that?
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh. Your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, September 12th. Don't worry, Ben. Just modern technology happening here. I
Feedback,
know.
man. Hold on. Get that bung out, dude.
All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, September 12th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for bringing back the Ben Joravsky show. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, and of course, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Thursday, September 12th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, in these times, writer Miles Kampf-Lassin makes his return. We welcome back Charise Williams of the Chicago Federation of Labor, and closing it down, the pride and joy of the 10th Ward himself, the most sharp-dressed guest we have, the one, the only Ismael Cuevas. And now your host, by the least, best dressed man, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this The More Things Change Thursday. And here's why. Stories of both papers today, D, about the ongoing saga over at Lincoln Yards. Yes, one of my favorite topics, everybody. One more time. In the last meeting of the Chicago City Council in the reign of Mayor Rahm Emanuel, Mayor Rahm Emanuel said to himself, how could I really stick it to Chicago and let them know how much I dislike them? What's the best way I could do? I know what I'll do. I'll jack up their taxes by tens of millions of dollars, those dummies, and stick it to them by subsidizing a upscale development in a gentrifying North Side neighborhood that doesn't need a handout to be developed. And then he got the city council. Lord knows what they were thinking about to go along. I'll vote whatever you say, Rob. Whatever you say, boss. 1.3 million, open window, throw it out. That was Mayor Rahm's last meeting as mayor of the city of Chicago, and he has since gone on to a very promising career. D, we talked about
biking.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
That's right. How long was it?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, Mayor Rahm, you're so busy. He was exhausted. I can't believe he could get on that bike after twisting all those arms in the city council to pass that deal. Anyway, almost immediately, and you know this, folks, because you listen to this show, two outfits in the city of Chicago, two community groups, Raise Your Hand Coalition and the Grassroots Collaborative, with our good friend Amisha Patel, right, D?
Hey, Amisha.
Filed suit challenging the deal on the grounds that it's illegal. And then Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, that Lori Lightfoot, had her lawyers from the law department fight the suit. That is correct. You heard that correctly. Mayor Lori Lightfoot sent her lawyers into court to challenge the suit on the grounds that the plaintiffs, Amisha Patel and Raise Your Hand, did not have standing, okay? And so follow me on this one, folks. When she was a candidate for mayor, Lori Lightfoot was against the TIF deal and said she was going to reform TIFs. Remember that, D? She said that, all right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, as Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she is paying city lawyers to go to court to preserve the deal. If you're confused and baffled, just be reassured by the fact, I don't know if this is very reassuring, that this is not the first time a mayor has done such a thing. Mayor Rahm himself got off his bike long enough to do pretty much the same thing back in 2012 or so with the parking meter deal. Our mayors love to talk big talks, but sometimes when they become mayors, they like to look the other way. Rahm on his bike. I'll just go for a bike ride up to Michigan and Wisconsin, having stuck it to the taxpayers of Illinois twice with the parking meter deal, reaffirming it, and with that TIF deal. Anyway, So the matter comes before a Cook County Circuit Court judge named Neil Cohen. And yesterday they had a hearing on the motion by the city of Chicago, the lawyers of the city of Chicago, whose salaries you pay, to dismiss the suit on the grounds that the plaintiffs do not have standing. All right. So Dave Roeder, the outstanding business and labor reporter for the Chicago.
Oh, what a bulldog.
Every time we see Roeder, he's hard to work. Bet I can't talk. I'm on the phone.
2 computers and on the phone. This dude's a hustler.
David Roeder, hardest working reporter in the city.
I'm busy.
We always see him as we're walking out.
What do you want? I'm busy. Okay, Roeder.
All right, calm down, Roeder. All right. Anyway, he wrote an article in the Sun-Times. Here it is. Show it.
Get a look at that, live streamers, huh?
That's a real
download. Did you see that?
Okay.
Don't have to punch it.
All right. Judge critiques a lawsuit challenging $1.3 billion TIF from Lincoln Yards. Here's the lead by David Roeder. A Cook County judge expressed sympathy for community groups suing to block tax subsidies for the Lincoln Yards development, but offered withering criticism of their legal theories during a court hearing Wednesday. Withering criticism. Yeah, that's no understatement. Man, Cohen went ripped into them. All right. He goes, yeah, I feel really sorry for you guys, but hell no. Here's another line from Roeder. At one point, Cohen told a young lawyer representing the groups, quote, I know how millennials think, but we're not here to give you everything. No. We're here to give Sterling Bay, the developers, everything. Anyway, man, come on. Cohen, you didn't have to be so hard on millennials, did you? I mean, God, I got my issues with millennials too, but come on. Anyway.
Oh, by the way, did you Venmo me that money back last week?
I thought it was Vimo. Oh, it's Venmo?
Venmo.
Oh, sorry, man.
I'm never getting that money back.
Anyway, so here's the deal with TIF, folks. Yes, they're a scam. Yes, they take from the poor and they feed for the rich. Yes, they're unfair in how they're distributed. The downtown neighborhoods get much more than the outlying neighborhoods. Yes, there's no oversight. Yes, they jack up your property taxes. Yes, they divert billions or millions from things that you want, like schools and cops and firefighters, et cetera, and so forth. But basically, they're here to stay because our mayors like them, and the city council doesn't have the guts to stand up to the mayors. And now apparently Judge Cohen is saying, look, guys, Mama Cohen didn't raise a fool. You guys passed this thing. Don't look at me. Don't look at me if you think I'm going to knock this out. I'm not sticking my neck out. Maybe that knucklehead for the reader wants to talk about it. Look what happened to him, huh, D? Right? Remember? He got FIRED.
Oh, yeah, that's a guy I work with every day.
For talking so much. I'm not going down that path like that guy. So old Cohen is like, I love when lawyers, they find the law, D, okay? The law is a very useful instrument, right? Well, the law tells me blah, blah, blah. The law tells me I can duck and dodge this one. Hey, man, I don't blame Cohen. Like I said, if the city council in its infinite wisdom, in quotes, is going to bow to pressure from Mayor Rahm, who is running out the door, like I said, just giving us one more middle finger. If the city council is going to do it, if Mayor Lightfoot's going to look the other way and let it go, why should Judge Cohen be the guy who sticks his neck out, D, huh? Why should he be the guy who sticks his neck out? He'll end up like me, all right? That's what happens to people who challenge TIF deals in the city of Chicago. Anyway, Judge Cohen said, well, he didn't make his official ruling, but it's pretty obvious to everyone. David Roeder, the guy from the Tribune, everyone pretty much read between the lines that Cohen's getting that arm ready, D. He's getting that arm, warming up, getting ready. I'm going to throw this suit right out of this court. And when he does, he's going to say all nice things about the law. You guys did a great job, but hey, you think I'm going to rule against this TIF deal and all the powers that be? As I said, Mama Cohen didn't raise no fools. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, indeed. Miles Kampf-Lassin will be here. In these times, Ace Reporter's got $1 million. Is he going to give us a chicken update, D?
He better bring some sandwiches. Every week he comes here, he talks about Popeye's chicken.
Yeah, man. I don't think they're selling the chicken sandwiches.
I'll take the boneless combo,
Yeah, okay.
7-piece with a mashed potato.
You hear that, Miles? Start getting that chicken. All right? And Charise Williams will be here from the Chicago Federation of Labor. She'll be bringing a mystery guest.
Oh. Well, maybe they'll bring chicken.
Yeah. Charise, if you hear that, bring some chicken for Dr. D. And, of course, the pride and joy of the 10th Ward, the man, the myth, the legend, Cuevas will be here about 2. As D says, he's going to close down the show. He's going to be the late inning reliever that we bring in to mow down the opposition. Man, we're going to be talking about the upcoming presidential debates. Don't forget, D. Debates tonight, huh?
Yep.
All right, get ready for those debates. We're going to talk national news, local news, state politics, absolutely everything. But before we do any of that,
Dennis, with whatever the hell he's talking about.
The young man from Alton, the pride and joy of that downstate community, Dr. D, has the news.
Hey, guys, how's it going? I'm Dennis. What's so funny?
Are you a doctor?
Never.
Okay.
Never been a...
He's a doctor of
went
love.
To community college.
He's a doctor of love, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there we go. Helping my dating life out tremendously.
He's got a PhD in LOVE.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Well, people, as you know, if you know Ben Joravsky, that was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this TIF rant, okay? Plenty TIF talk coming, all right?
Hey, theme of the day, Mama Cohen didn't raise no fool.
Mama Cohen did not raise no fool.
Neil Cohen's like, you're not going to get me to do this. Sorry, man. Cohen's like,
Yes, it is debate day as well, and we're going to talk all things tonight's Democratic 2020 presidential candidate debate, but... Man, before we start more TIF talk, before we get distracted and all that, we need to talk about what else is happening in Chicago and or Illinois today. Plans on Chicago Mayor Lightfoot's Thursday schedule include a visit to Madison and St. Louis streets to announce the West Side Vision Zero traffic safety plan. Boy, that's a very wordy event.
Yeah, it's a big event.
The West Side Vision Zero traffic safety plan, an effort to increase traffic safety on Chicago's south and west sides.
Okay, it sounds good.
I think it sounds pretty good, too.
Yeah, sounds good.
Ben, I know you've been anxiously awaiting for the latest episode of your favorite new Chicago soap opera. Well, the wait is over, my friend. Oh. That's right. The wife of a city council member is in the news. Oh. Grab the popcorn. It's this week's A Mayor and Her Alderman. A Mayor and Her Alderman.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Ben loves the show. Can't get enough.
I love this show. Yeah.
Aside from that serial killer show he's watching, this is his favorite.
That would be called Mind Hunters. Ever hear of it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Now, this one here, today's A Mayor and Her Alderman, kind of a subplot in the story of the embattled alderman of the 14th Ward, one Ed Butterfingers Burke. The following comes from...
Where did you get Butterfingers?
I don't know.
That's good. I like that.
Thought of it on the train today. Yeah. The following comes from the Daily Herald. Ben, for 10 trivia points, the Daily Herald is a paper out of which Illinois suburb of Chicago?
Give me the ball. Arlington Heights.
Nice.
Come on, man.
That was good. I didn't think you'd know that.
I didn't think I would either.
Wow.
I was like, could be Rolling Meadows, but I'm going to go with Arlington Heights.
He's surprising himself today, people. Illinois Supreme Court Justice Ann Burke will become the next Chief Justice of the state's highest court. Yes, Ann Burke, the wife of indicted Chicago alderman who shook down a Burger King in his ward, Ed Burke. Ann's moving up in the world.
Moving on up.
While her husband,
the east side.
While her husband, let's just say, things have been better.
That's correct.
Mueller agrees with you. What about Rahm? What does he think? Huh?
That's something up riding his bike. Now, luckily for Ann Burke, the position rotates among the justices based on seniority.
Oh, okay. She's been there a while.
Yeah,
huh?
Seniority, not among whose spouse has recently shook down a Burger King.
Well, it's good for her. You're right. Because if that were the case... Well, I mean, if you got the gig because your husband shook down a Burger King, she'd been the Supreme Court head, like 3 years ago. So look at it that way, D.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ann Burke.
Glass half empty, glass half full.
I like where you're coming from. Ann Burke, who has served on the court since 2006, will begin her 3-year term as Chief Justice on October 26. Ben Joravsky. Why do I have a weird, suspicious feeling when it comes to this? Should I have this feeling? Should being the wife of an indicted alderman matter when it comes to her own political success? And, of course, the speculatory plot twist. Will Ann Burke use her new position to pull a few strings and try and clear her husband?
Well, I doubt the latter, but, why would you be concerned? Well, let's think about it this way. The number one judge in the state of Illinois is the wife of an alderman who's been indicted for corruption and has been playing both ends of the game for many, many years with conflicts of interest between his position as chairman of the finance committee and his job as a property tax appeal lawyer. So would you be concerned about that? Well, I guess you could say, you know, the number one judge in the state of Illinois' husband is some sleazy alderman. Yeah, I think there'd be, you know, you might be a little concerned, but I'm sure there's a division in the Burke household, D, all right? They don't talk about anything. So, like when she comes home from a hard day's work, making rulings at the Supreme Court, and he comes back from a hard day's work of having a conflict of interest, being the finance chair and a property tax lawyer, they never, ever talk about finance committee stuff. They never, ever talk about, they never had a conversation. Oh, so, honey, how was your day today? Well, I shook down a Burger King owner. Oh, that's good. Pass the peas. They never have that conversation. There's a division of labor in that house, D. All right? Anything interesting today? Well, I was representing Sterling Bay, who's going to be a recipient of a $1 billion TIF deal, while I'm the chairman of the finance committee. Oh, that's interesting, dear. Do we have any fried chicken from Popeyes? By the way, don't you think Miles is bringing that Popeyes chicken?
I'm getting starved.
What's the over-under? Anyway, so yes, I think there's reason to be concerned, but, you know, that's how it goes. And here's the interesting thing about Ann Burke. There's, like, people will always tell you they love Ann Burke. And this is a very, I don't know, is this unique to Chicago, D? If someone doesn't have something nice to say about the husband, they always have something nice to say about the wife. Have you ever noticed this, D?
Yeah.
I mean, people were always praising Maggie Daly. Oh, I love Maggie Daly. You know, I love Maggie Daly. They may have something nice to say about Richie Daly, who was married to Maggie. Oh, I love Maggie Daly. People were always praising Rom's wife. Oh, I love Amy. You know, but they never something about Rom. They always say something nice about the wife to avoid, you know, I guess that's what, I don't know. They really don't want to get in trouble with the husband if they say anything wrong about the wife. I don't know what's going on in people's mind. But so many people tell me, oh, I love Ann Burke. She's a wonderful human being. I've never met her, D. Never met Ann Burke. How about that? Never really met Ed Burke either, just seen him in action.
So you've never met them both. All right, let's keep speculating here. So you say, you know, I mean, they share a lot of things. They're husband and wife. They share like silverware, toilet paper,
Yes.
bed sheets. So you're saying they don't share secrets.
Yeah, I mean, you have to believe that, right, people? Either that or you can be a little worried that the head of the Supreme Court in the state of Illinois, the number one judge in the state of Illinois, is the longtime wife of a crooked alderman. I should say an alleged crooked alderman. You're innocent until proven otherwise, D. Okay? So tell that to the Burger King owner who got shaken down. Get that property tax business with Burke. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little alarmed by a lot of power in one family there. But Ann Burke is now the head of the Illinois State Supreme Court. But it's a federal case against Burke, Ed Burke, so she will have no say in that criminal matter.
So once again, Ann Burke, new position in the courts of Illinois. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Only time will tell.
Yes.
So until next time, this has been a mayor and her alderman. To be continued.
I'll bet you, by the way, Lori Lightfoot, following this trend, would say nothing but nice things about Ann Burke. That's the trend. She's lovely. She's wonderful. Everybody says, I love Ann Burke, right? They all say that. I didn't say that, but I'm quoting people saying that. But then I can't stand the husband. Of course, you know, it's interesting. They loved the husband up until the time Lori Lightfoot got elected. If you recall, young Dennis, right shortly after the feds announced they were doing their investigation of Ed Burke, he had a fundraiser. Remember that? People lined up paying money to go see Ed Burke and give money to him.
Yeah.
I love Ed Burke. So,
Like right after the feds raided his office. Yeah, I don't know. They may have him wrong. He's a good guy.
we got to get Adolfo Mondragon. He's our Ed Burke expert, right? From the southwest side of Chicago, the pride and joy, the back of the yards. He knows everything. He'd give us an Ed Burke update.
The YouTube live stream chat is getting crazy here. We're talking about Popeyes, I guess. Steven weighs in. He says, and a large order of Cajun fries. He loves the Cajun fries. Those are pretty good fries. Yeah. And then David says, what, no shrimp?
Popeyes has shrimp?
You're damn right. That's the number 10. What it is half shrimp, half chicken.
I did not know that. I just always get this chicken at Popeyes. And by the way,
branch out a little.
I have to say, there's a fine chicken place in Evanston. Cap and I, shout out to my good friend Cap, went and saw on Tuesday night. Did I tell you this, Steve? $5.50 in Evanston. $5.50.
Oh, you're admitting this.
Yeah, $5.50, folks. No excuse not to go see a movie. In Evanston, we saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, third time. And then afterwards, we went to the Chicken Shack and had some delicious chicken.
I wasn't going to mention it because I thought you were trying to hide the fact that you've seen this movie 3 times in theaters. But you're just sharing it with the world, huh?
It is kind of embarrassing. I love that movie so much.
That's good times. All right, well, let's move on here. Right. In other Illinois political family news, House Speaker Michael Joseph Madigan's daughter and former Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan looks like she's found her latest endeavor after stepping down as the AG. The following comes from Crane's Chicago Business.
Greg Hines?
Not Greg Hines.
Come on, Greg.
Not Greg Hines.
Who broke the story?
I forgot to put it on here. I'll find it before the news.
It's not Greg Hines, and everybody knows Greg Hines is a political columnist.
I'll go and look it up after.
What's Greg Hines best known for, D?
I've been trying to book this guy, and you get us in this corner every time.
He's not the world's greatest poker player, okay? But I'm sure he's really good at like gin rummy, I think, but not poker.
I almost had him booked for an interview. Let me check my email here. Okay, nothing yet from Greg Hines. So
anything
far,
from
we're in the
Rom?
clear.
By the way, what about Rom?
He biked a lot.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Okay. He's busy biking, all right? He won't bike in anytime soon.
No, he's not going to bike in anytime soon. So nothing yet from Greg Hines. We're still in the clear. Maybe we'll get that interview after all. Just stop talking about how awful he is at poker. Following comes from Crane Chicago Business. I'll find who wrote it in a minute. Former Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan has joined the country's largest law firm, Kirkland & Ellis.
Oh, my goodness.
Madigan is a partner in the firm's litigation practice, working out of the Chicago and Washington, D.C. offices. Ben, your response to that was, oh, my goodness. What do you know about Kirkland & Ellis?
Big-time law firm, as you said. They are on both sides of the fence. They got Republicans there. They got Democrats there. They're making mega money, folks. By the way, on a tangent here, can I just give a shout?
Would you say billions? They make billions?
Well, billions. Would they in a year? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, billion isn't what it used to be. Hundreds of millions. They're big time, man. They're like, they lobby the city of Chicago, but that's just their little Chicago branch. I mean, this is a national, international law firm.
Yes, that's billion with a B.
I didn't know you were going there. Billions with a B, which rhymes with P, which stands for pool, right here in River City.
What is that? Where does that come from? You said that yesterday, too.
Yes. Well, okay, this is a generational gap right here on the Ben Joravsky Show, where the host, who's old, and the producer, who's young, have different worldviews. And there's a movie called The Music Man, which came out long before you were born. And there's a song where the guy goes, something with a P, it's something with a B, and it rhymes with P, and that stands for pool right here in River City. So anyway, whenever I hear it go, that rhymes with B, that's what clicks, D, which rhymes with P, pool, blah, 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 blah. Anyway.
Still no email from Greg Hines, but I did just check. Yeah, we lost all of our live listeners with that thing you just did.
All right, by the way, a lot of music. I'm sure there's a lot of fans of that show. By the way, city paid $213 million to defend cops in trouble. A great article in the Tribune. I urge everyone after the show to read it by reporter Dan Hinkle. Tribune, give Dan Hinkle a raise. He did a great job. But it talks about how during the from the O's into not too long ago, the city of Chicago under Mayor Rahm and Mayor Daley decided it was a good idea to hire outside attorneys from these big-time firms like Kirkland & Ellis. I don't believe Kirkland & Ellis is one of the firms, at least they weren't mentioned in the story. So you want to know how powerful these law firms are, D? They get a lot of money from governments. The state of Illinois, the federal government, they have a lot of inside dealing and wheeling. And so in this particular article, the city of Chicago decided it was a good idea to farm out the business to private lawyers. Got about $213 million at the Tribune. Dan Hinkle tallied it up. So I want to say one nice thing about that TIF deal. At least it was city lawyers handling the appeal or handling the fight against the to preserve the TIF. They didn't bother to go to Kirkland and Ellis or to some other law firm to pay even more money for something that we can pay a lawyer in-house to do. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that Lisa Madigan will be doing.
Dan Hinkle, you ever play poker with him?
No, I don't. He's probably a millennial. So this poker game that I keep alluding to was about in 1981.
Oh,
right?
wow.
It was a young Greg Hines, okay?
And a slightly old Ben Joravsky.
That was my back then. My goodness, I was in my prime.
Wait, I got an email. Hold on. Okay, we just lost the Hines interview. Way to go, Ben.
What about the Rahm interview? Any updates on that?
He's never coming.
Okay.
Rahm interview.
Oh, well.
Good Lord.
I can't help it.
All right. So
can't
there's
help myself.
that. What was I going to do? Oh, we have some people weighing in on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page here. Carol has weighed in. How's it going, Carol? She's listening live on Facebook Live. She says here, I expect Ed to step down before the end of his term. Well, I wish he would.
Yeah, I share that wish, but I got a feeling they're going to have to drag him out of office. And he's just got reelected. How about that, D? The people of the 14th Ward like him, and they reelected him even though, well, I don't know, was he officially under indictment when the election happened, or was he just under investigation? I cannot remember. That's where we need Adolfo Mondragon. He knows that stuff inside out, right, D?
And then Carol says, I missed the earlier half. Damn, well, don't worry, Carol, because you can download that part you missed after today's show at both Chicago Reader and Chicago Sun-Times. What are you doing with your fingers?
I'm doing after the show.
Oh, he's doing finger moves
after the show.
After the show, you can download the Chicago Reader and Chicago Sun-Times websites. So download it, huh? That'd be pretty cool. Or you can rewatch it on YouTube. Either way, the beginning's on there.
By the way, I got just a text. I'm going to put my phone away. People like to text me when I'm on the show.
Someone cursing you out again on Lincoln Yards and Lightfoot?
No, not cursing. Wait, hold on. Maybe it was.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. Ben, kiss my beep. Judge Cohen. Hey. Okay.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I told you, Mama Cohen didn't raise any fools, okay? Judge Cohen's not City Council. Don't dump this on me.
All right. So that's about the local news going on today. We got a few more minutes here before Miles Kampf-Lassin joins us. Ben, riff on that TIF thing again.
Well, you know, I'm going to show some restraint. I've been talking about, remember when we did the bonus feature? Okay, so I was critical of Lori Lightfoot in a reader column or two, and on the show, particularly in having to do with the Lincoln Yard TIF. I do not understand, as I've said. Listen to how measured I am, D, okay? Very Carlos Ramirez Rosa-like. I'm very measured. Remember how measured he was when he came on the show, when he was critiquing Lori Lightfoot? So I'm being very measured. I do not know or understand why a mayoral candidate who would run as a TIF reformer would, at once elected mayor, would send her lawyers, city lawyers, paid for by your tax dollars, into court to preserve the deal. See how measured I am, D? Very measured. So I can never understand that. And so when I put that in the article, in my reader column, and I said this here, many Lori Lightfoot supporters got upset with me.
I believe you called them Lori lovers.
Yeah, and they sent me text emails basically telling me, kiss my beep. So I said, you know what, I'm going to reach out. So I brought on two Lori Lightfoot supporters. Lori Glenn was one of them. Remember that, D?
Yep.
And we had a very nice civil interview, a discussion. We aired it as a bonus feature. I think it ran on Monday. Am I correct about that, D?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
Wait, I mean,
that's correct.
Thank you. And so, but in the course of that, I got a little, you know me, I get a little carried away. And Lori Glenn goes, "Look at you, your face is all red." Remember, your face is all red. By the way, when she said that, she was pointing her finger at me, which is kind of interesting. And I felt kind of like, did you ever see that movie, Anger Management?
Oh, Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler?
Yeah, where Sandler's on the plane and Nicholson's saying, "You're out of control." And
I saw the cover. I didn't see the movie.
Oh, you didn't see the movie? But he's totally calm, and they say he's losing control. So I kind of felt like that at that moment. But it's really easy for me to get passionate about these deals. And so I'll tell you ultimately why. Here's one reason anyway. The TIFs increase the amount of money you pay in property taxes. Chicago, in fact, it increases the amount anybody pays in property taxes, no matter where you live. So if you live in Oak Park, you pay more in property taxes because of your TIFs. If you live in Evanston, you pay more in property taxes because of your TIFs. So a lot of people in the city of Chicago, a lot of people in Evanston, a lot of people in Oak Park, I'm just naming a few suburbs, they were trying to put a TIF in Kenilworth, And this is supposed to be instruments to help the poorest of the poor, eradicate blight in the poorest of poor neighborhoods. How that would apply to Kenilworth, I do not know. Maybe someone should file a suit about that. Bring it before Judge Cohen, huh, D? And Cohen's like, no, you're not going to get me to do that. So anyway, it's raising property taxes. So it's a curious thing because they're in court saying you have no standing to object to this TIF, even though it's going to raise your property taxes. So they're saying, D, you have no right to complain about how the city is spending your money, how they're allocating dollars, your property tax dollars, even though it raises your property taxes. It's an interesting interpretation of the rights of citizens, the limitations of citizen rights. I guess we have no rights to complain about property taxes. We just simply write the check and send it in, huh, D? So anyway, that is one of the many reasons. See how calm and measured I am?
I know.
Very good. I learned my lesson from that interview with Lori Glenn, okay? That conversation with Lori Glenn. And I'm not going to point my finger at you, even though I'm pointing my finger at you. Anyway, so that is one of the many reasons I've been opposed to that TIF deal. And folks, I just want to remind you that your taxes will be going up. And don't get mad at me just because I'm the one who is the messenger.
Send your hate mail to BennyJShow@gmail.com. BennyJShow@gmail.com. Let Ben know what you think. We may read it on the air, We posted on the Ben Joravsky Show Facebook page the story of Ann Burke. She said she's humbled and honored to become Chief of Justice of Illinois Supreme Court. We had people weigh in here. Natalie says, oh, geez, this has to be a joke.
Unfortunately, it's the punchline is, well, the joke's on you, Natalie, and all the citizens of this great state. The Burkes have been around for a long time.
There was nothing, what we do here on the local news is we keep track of our governor's and mayor's daily schedule. No public events once again scheduled for J.B. Pritzker. So, Ben, let's have a little fun here. What's J.B. Pritzker doing right now at this moment?
Well, he's listening to the show.
Okay.
Yeah, big fan of the Ben Joravsky Show, all right? He's listening to the show, and he's probably going, well, Ben, you're a little unfair. All right, that's true. You're a little unfair to Judge Cohen, all right? So, yeah, I'm sure he's listening to the show. And what
do you think J.B. Pritzker thinks of the Lincoln Yards deal?
Well, okay. J.B. Pritzker was very he was, how do I put it? We always like to joke about him. What did we say? He was like Fred Astaire. He was with Sugar Ray Pritzker. Remember that joke?
Smooth as butter.
Yeah, smooth as butter, because that was a deal in which the city of Chicago was spending dollars to subsidize a lot of well-to-do, very powerful real estate interests who had their connections to Democratic Party, and it's a lot of jobs. So J.B. Pritzker was very reluctant to come out and forcefully speak out against that. Similarly, he was very reluctant to come out and forcefully speak against the Amazon deal. Remember that, D? When those days I used to ask him about Amazon, and he'd be ducking and dodging. Well, Ben, it's a lot. Yeah, so fortunately for the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, we were not on the hook for the Amazon deal. We are on the hook for Lincoln Yards. So I think J.B. Pritzker generally falls into the category of Democrats, and this is most of the Democrats in the state of Illinois, who view these subsidies as good for business and good for jobs. And so they'll kind of look the other way at all the problems with the programs and allow them continue. And then when somebody like me asks them about it, they'll say, yeah, Ben, you raise a good point. There's a lot of things we have to look into, and we're going to look into them. And then the deals continue to happen, D. So, it's, well, how do I put this, D? It takes a special kind of politician to take like these populist stands against these inside deals. And I haven't seen that politician in the state of Illinois in my lifetime with power, a lot of power. Definitely not in the last 20 or 30 years. I can't think of anyone. So that's kind of where J.B. Pritzker stands in this. Not unlike Lori Lightfoot, by the way.
All right, J.B. Pritzker, by the way, still on the mend, on crutches. He broke his femur. Get better, big guy.
I'm not a perfect person.
So there you are, some local news happening this afternoon. We got Miles Kampf-Lassin coming in very, very shortly. But, Ben, we need to tell all of our listeners that they can get the inside scoop on all things Chicago Bears this football season. Not from this show, all right? We do politics. Every now and again, Ben will talk about how he can't stand the Bears.
Well, no, that is not true.
Oh, wait until next week. They might do well, and they'll love them.
I love the Chicago Bears.
Oh, I believe the quote you had right after the game Friday was, let me make sure I get this right, the Bears suck.
Okay, that doesn't mean I do not love them, okay? I've been a Bears fan since 1966. Gale Sayers, all right? Dick Butkus, okay? Jack Concannon, all right? Dick Gordon, okay? Doug Buffon, all right? Ed O'Bradovich. I'm a big Bears fan, but they sucked last Thursday, and it really irritated me to no end, and I'm still not over it yet, D. Man, did you guys see Deshaun Watson on Monday night throwing touchdowns? How come we don't have a quarterback throw a touchdown?
And that's the sports talk for today's program.
Sorry.
Get the inside scoop on all things Chicago Bears this football season with the annual Sun-Times Bears magazine. Dive into features of players, coaches, games, and plays, and get excited for the 100th, count 'em, 100th season of football. This collectible magazine is just what you need to get ready for this fall, along with pants and a scarf. You can order your copy of this magazine at suntimes.com/ the letter C, the letter T as in Tom, shop. Grab your copy today. And don't go anywhere. Plenty more of the Ben Joravsky Show on the way. It's the Ben Joravsky Show live from the Chicago Sun-Times for your Thursday, September 12th.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most affordable Ideas Festival of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Cameron Esposito.
Everything that I have ever tried to do has had two motivations. One is I really do believe in trying to create social change, and then the other one is I'm scared and alone too, so I would like for you to join me. You know, every job that I have, I try to make sure to hold the door open. That's like my motto for like if I get through, you're coming with me, and I believe in that wholeheartedly, and especially if I have more privilege than you, like I'm holding the door open for you even wider.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th for 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed. Miles Kampf-Lassin in the studio. And from these times, you have some updates about basketball, the debates, etc. But the thing we really want to know, Chicken Gate. First of all, did you bring any chicken?
I got no chicken for you.
Damn. What good are you? Go out and get some Popeyes.
Well, I'll tell you what they've done, as you probably noticed, there's no chicken sandwiches around. They have these big signs that say "Be right back." There was this huge, the supply is not kept up with demand, clearly, and there was just not enough buns to go around. So what they're saying now is something about bring your own bun, just order the chicken fingers. I don't, it's not the real thing.
No, it's not the real. The joke is, of course, we will continue this gag for about at least another month. Miles Kampf-Lassin about 2 weeks ago did a great, in my humble opinion, story in Jacobin, not in these times. And then we talked about it here on the show about how Popeyes was rolling in the dough from their chicken sandwich, but they're not sharing it with their workers, and the workers are getting screwed. So I've been having fun with that ever since.
Well, and since then, I talked about some of my detractors last week on both the right and purportedly on the left. But since then, there was actually another piece written in the New York Daily News, of all places, by a woman who, she's kind of a modern-day Barbara Ehrenreich. She kind of went back and she's a great writer, but she went back and took a job doing fast food work. And so she talks about, these issues from the perspective of somebody who has, lived under the conditions of fast food workers live under: low pay, very hectic work conditions, total precarity, security in the job. And so she linked to that piece that I wrote and said, this is hopefully an example of how the media can change their coverage, because there's been so much media coverage of these like fast food crazes. They want to talk about it. There was this whole Szechuan sauce thing with McDonald's, which is kind of a weird Rick and Morty show reference. It happened like a couple years ago. And the media was all talking about how the companies couldn't keep up with, what the consumers wanted and everything, but it didn't cover it from the perspective of the workers. And so she pointed to the piece I wrote in Jacobin, as you said, as an example of maybe this can change, how we approach these various cultural moments where fast food is in the news, and actually talk about it from the perspective of the people that are on the front lines that are facing the worst conditions. So that was heartening to see, after having been under fire in the past, to see, New York Daily News stepping up and showing, they
shouting
maybe care for the workers themselves.
All right, since we're on a labor bent, let's start off with labor. I want to talk presidential debate, of course, that's tonight, to chat a little bit about that. The contrasting advice offered to Democrats from two Chicago political strategists, one David Axelrod, the other Rahm Emanuel. We'll get into all that. But California folks, I don't know if you follow this, everybody. I don't know how much California news gets followed in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, but the General Assembly in California passed a bill, Assembly Bill 5, they call it, which would effectively make Uber and Lyft drivers employees as opposed to private contractors. The bill was passed. It has not yet been signed into law by Governor Newsom of California, a Democrat, I should say. But he says he's going to sign it, but it looks like he's trying to work a deal at the same time because Uber and Lyft have vowed to vociferously fight it. Uber has already said they don't feel as though they have to follow that law, and they just won't follow it. I believe both of those companies said they're spending millions of dollars to pass a referendum that would block the bill. And so they're ready to have a big fight. But let's talk about the importance, and we're going to probably talk about this more in the show in the union segment with Charise Williams. But the significance of this bill if it is signed by the governor.
Well, it's very interesting that this came in the same week that there's a big announcement here, obviously, that Uber is planning on moving into the old main post office as their new kind of Chicago headquarters. They're going to throw this money into it. They clearly see Chicago because of their past dealings with Rahm Emanuel, as you remember when we had the previous regulations, which were incredibly watered down, that passed through the mayor's office with his being on board. That was a few years back. So Uber sees Chicago as really a place that they can flourish. And what we should say is that the contents of this bill, this AB 5 bill, it really goes to the heart of this sharing economy or gig economy, and works to, what the business class has seen this as kind of the Wild West, where we can, do innovation and entrepreneurship. But it all, again, happens to come at the expense of workers who have very little protections in this whole scheme. As we know, right now there's no basic job protections that these companies need to offer their employees, whether it's minimum wage, whether it's health care, whether paid sick days. And as a result, there's people working, incredible amounts of hours. You could say it's their own choice to do it, but is it really your choice when you have to drive?
You have no choice.
When you have to drive a car all day just to be able to afford a meager health insurance plan for your kids. I don't see that as, this is people just trying to get rich. Most drivers are not getting rich off of Uber and Lyft or any of these sharing economies. It's young, precarious workers largely, and now there's much of older workforce moving into it. Even retirees who are just trying to supplement the meager incomes that they have. So what this bill in California would do would actually provide these types of protections to over 1 million low-wage workers across the state, a huge number, obviously, and it's all kinds of companies, not just Uber and Lyft, but also companies like DoorDash and Postmates, these, sharing economy companies, so-called, and Uber and Lyft are not happy about it at all. As you mentioned, Uber says that they're going to not just fight it, they're going to find some legal loophole to say that because what a law effectively would do is treat workers for these companies as employees rather than just contractors who you can, just hire and fire as you please and not care for or take care of whatsoever. So it would provide those basic protections and say, no, these are actually workers, they're employees of your company, and you have to treat them as such. Uber is going to try to find a way around that. But it's telling that in the face of this law, what Uber and Lyft did is they offered actually to a $21 minimum wage to their employees in California. So clearly they're pretty scared. They're offering concessions. This is what any time there's a labor action taken, just take a look at what happened with the strikes across the country. There's the powers that be are going to start to suddenly they come up with some money. They start to come up with some offerings that they can do because they don't want to actually face the results of workers being empowered and coming together. Because hey, once they're employees of a company, what's to stop them from then forming a union, trying to collectively bargain and actually wrench some concessions off of the executives of Uber and Lyft, who obviously are making massive sums of profits themselves while their workers are stuck driving cars all day for a pittance. So what they're also doing is they offered that $21 minimum wage. That might be part of these negotiations with Governor Newsom that they're going through right now, but the Assembly passed it, so it's ready to go.
It's ready to go, yeah.
And it's about to go. But what they're doing, their second plan, as you referenced as well, is they're going to put Uber and Lyft together, I think, with DoorDash. I've said that they are going to put $90 million into a campaign to pass a ballot measure in 2020 because this law would go into effect January 1st, 2020. So they want to be able to avoid that by passing a ballot initiative on the ballot, and they're going to put $90 million into doing that, which would provide carve-outs for their companies. So this goes to show how, concentrated capital will work at any extent, to protect their interests, even if it means, screwing over masses of workers.
$90 million is no joke.
No joke.
They'd rather spend that money fighting this bill than give that money to their employees. And a couple of interesting side notes. Again, we'll probably be talking about this more in the labor segment, but one thing I was noticed when I was reading the articles about this, Miles, is that Uber and Lyft drivers right now are not in a union, and they haven't even, as far as I understand, taken those first steps to form a union, to get signatures and cards, et cetera, and then file them for have an election to see if there'll be a collective bargaining unit. And yet, Uber and Lyft, the companies, are effectively negotiating with SEIU, the union that is more or less representing the organizing, the drivers. So it's very bizarre. They don't officially recognize them as a union. That Lyft and Uber don't recognize their employees as union members. There is no collective bargaining unit, and yet they're dealing with this. Is how much they don't want this law to pass.
Yeah, they're doing anything they can, I think, to protect. Because this, make no mistake, if this law goes into effect, California obviously is the biggest economy in our country, and it sets the terms. That's why Trump is so always goes after California and tries to scapegoat it, because the laws and regulations and milestones that are set in California are going to reverberate across the country. And this would amount to a wholesale transformation of the gig economy and bring it back under the rules of the traditional economy that all other, employers have to operate under.
Well, I would think if it starts, in this case, it's starting in California, it will eventually move east. I believe there'll probably be an effort in Chicago and Illinois. If it hasn't already happened, I'm just unaware of it. I think in this political climate in the state of Illinois with J.B. Pritzker, the way he's been ruling since he took office, and the Democrats controlling the House and the Senate, I believe that there's a very good chance a similar bill like AB 5, where you recognize Uber drivers and Lyft drivers as employees as opposed to private contractors, could pass in the state of Illinois. At least now that Rahm Emanuel's no longer the mayor of the city of Chicago.
Yeah, well, obviously Rahm has tons of connections in the gig economy world. I mean, he came out of the Obama administration. You look at people from Robert Gibbs on down, all these former alums that were, Rahm's colleagues have gone in to make massive profits out of this industry as being representatives, as being communications guys. So that obstacle is gone, although Rahm is now ascended to a different level where he's, inviting Democrats nationally now. But it's quite possible. What it will come down to, I think, is the lobbying efforts of these companies and how politicians are able to operate around that so that they are not, enthralled to these same interests that have kind of dominated the legislatures around the country for so long.
Well, all right, since you mentioned Rahm, I was going
to say, you went on Twitter a few days ago and you said, headlines don't always capture the true essence of stories I write, but no one should ever listen to anything Rahm Emanuel has to say about politics. Remains a truism.
Yeah, that's one of the headlines. I will, you could put that, right there on my gravestone. I'll stand by that.
Well, that said, we had a lot of fun yesterday talking about the advice Rahm gave to the Democratic candidates. And again, one more time, folks, the debate will be tonight. We'll be talking a lot about it tomorrow. And we'll do a bonus segment, I believe. We got Leticia Wallace will be coming in with Samina Mustafa. We'll do a bonus segment. We'll be taping that tomorrow and probably uploading it for Monday. But anyway, Rahm offered his advice. So why don't we play that portion of the interview and get Miles' response?
Take it away, Rahm.
We've taken a position so far, and the candidates have, through the process, a few have not, on basically Medicare for all, which is we're going to eliminate 150 million people's health care, and we're going to provide health care for people that just come over the border. That is an untenable position for the general election. As you know, George, I just biked around Lake Michigan. Nearly 1,000 miles through Michigan and Wisconsin, two really important states. Nobody at a diner ran at me and said, take my health care away. Nobody. This is reckless as it relates to, and you don't have to take the position to win the primary, and you're basically literally hindering yourself for the general election.
All right, here we go. This is the debate that's occurring in the Democratic Party right now. This is the sort of advice that the Rahm wing of the Democratic Party is giving all the candidates. And they're giving this to the electorate, and that is that if you push too hard to have health care for everybody, if you take the view that health care is a right we all should have, you are dooming yourself to loss, and therefore you should preserve the status quo. I don't even know what he wants. He doesn't seem like he wants to fight for anybody, but my personal belief, Miles, that this is a recipe for disaster for the Democrats to follow Rahm's advice. How do you see it?
You summed it up pretty well there. I don't think that there's a real constituency for what Rahm Emanuel is selling right now, other than the political class in D.C. and kind of the chattering classes of Washington media. As you could see in the clip, if you watch it, he's sitting next to Chris Christie, one of the truly noxious figures in our political history, who was, ashamed basically out of politics by Donald Trump and now is his hatchet man in some way. And they're, laughing it up, right? Because this just goes to show, there's all these traditional claims about the ruling class. Doesn't matter what party you're in, you all basically have the same interests. Well, Rahm Emanuel is somebody who's made, when he worked as an investment banker briefly under Bruce Rauner, not that briefly, it was a few years, but he made $16 million in just a few years. That's more, than 10 times what most people will make in their whole lifetimes, and he made it in just a few years. This is somebody who's, it's not even ideological, I don't think, with Rahm Emanuel. It's more he knows the interests that he wants to protect, and he knows the kind of politics that he wants to have the Democratic Party represent on a national scale. And that's what he was hired to do when he was hired as an ABC contributor, when he was hired as an Atlantic columnist. He was hired to give these kind of backwards, tired takes that say, whoa, 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 Democrats, we're going way too far. What about, the guy in middle America? What about the suburban mom in Pennsylvania? As if these mythic creatures represent the same interest that he does, a multimillionaire who, former banker who's been like a politico throughout his entire life, who prides himself on being, capable of getting on everybody's nerves and shaking up politics and stuff. If you look at his history, can I just say, Rahm Emanuel, he has never been hard when it comes to Republicans. He's only done that when it's come to progressives and leftists in his own party. Those are the areas where Rahm Emanuel will, swear up and down and say F-U-A-W and F-U Lewis. He comes after people that he perceives as his enemies, which are those on the left, not those on the right. So I think that motivates his line of thinking. And if the Democratic Party nationally thinks that is the type of, scion you want to be leading your party into 2020 to take on Donald Trump, you got another thing coming. And luckily, the candidates don't seem to buy that, because as Rahm notes in that clip, the leading candidates are largely embracing at least the framework of Medicare for all. Elizabeth Warren came out with her plan today for Medicare for all, which is pretty similar to Bernie Sanders, although potentially could leave the door open to continuing to have some employer-based private insurance, whereas Sanders' plan is a full national health care plan. But even Biden talks about the public option for health care now. I mean, do you think he'd be talking about that if the climate around the issue of health care hadn't changed dramatically since 2016? I don't think so. And Rahm wants to take it back. He wants to take us back to the Hillary Clinton approach, which was basically just double down on Obamacare and that's it, as if that's happy. I mean, one of the issues driving the electorate the most this year, it's not just the economy, it's healthcare, because there's 30 million people without healthcare. There's many millions more that are underinsured, that can't afford their premiums, and they're worried about it because it's their basic health. And so that's what I think that most people are going to look to, not Rahm's advice.
And before I get further into the advice offered by the Rahms of the Democratic Party and David Axelrod, just think for a moment, I'm picturing that. I did not see the actual show where Rahm appeared with.
You're lucky.
I usually sleeping during those shows. But anyway, just think about that for a moment, though. They're positioning this as a debate between the left and the right. And the left is represented by Rahm Emanuel. And Rahm Emanuel is essentially, as you put it, metaphorically speaking anyway, at war with like the real left.
Yeah.
So this notion that this is a debate, when you go, I like to say on my show, I start with Joe Biden and I move left, okay? Yeah. And I've had Green Party people come on. Rahm Emanuel is so far removed, Miles, from even like Elizabeth Warren Democrats, Cory Booker Democrats. Yeah. I think Mayor Pete is even to the left of Mayor Rahm.
Well, I don't think that Rahm has a direct line to any of these potential nominees, except for maybe Joe Biden. That's the only administration he could most likely have any type of influence upon, let alone a job in. Whereas, in 2008, he was lifted up as, Obama's chief of staff. He had massive amounts of influence in Washington. So he sees he's got no way in with Warren's campaign or with Bernie's campaign. And Biden's basically the only thing left. I doubt he even, has, he obviously was part of the Obama-Biden administration, but I don't think he has major lines into the campaign there either. But this is what he's hired to do, to be this spokesperson for centrism at a time that Americans have wholesale rejected it and said that we don't want this kind of tepid response to political crises. We want to see actual bold, transformative policies put on display, and that's what is represented by candidates like Sanders and Warren, and that's why Rahm is, doing anything he can, citing going to diners in Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever to say he's, he gets the real man or something. You did the reporting saying that he, when he was mayor, who was he meeting with? He wasn't going to diners meeting with people. He was meeting with his investment banker friends. That's his constituency. Those are the people he represents.
Yeah, no, that was pretty funny to notice him in a diner. All right, David David Axelrod, I've already alluded to this, wrote an essay for the New York Times, Let Trump Destroy Trump. It's an interesting little essay he wrote. David Axelrod, of course, is a political strategist from the city of Chicago, senior strategist for Barack Obama. We all know who David Axelrod is. Now he is a director of the Institute of Politics, University of Chicago, and the host of the Axe Files. Anyway, so he wrote this essay, and it's funny. It's sort of like... It's like at this very zen state of him. It's like listening to Phil Jackson articulate about Bulls defense or something. Here's how he ends the story. Trump's thermonuclear politics may rally both his base and Democrats who slumbered in 2016. It is the paralyzing disorder and anxiety his bilious behavior creates that is a distressing turnoff to voters at the margins who will make the difference. To win, the Democrats will have to turn Mr. Trump's negative energy against him without embodying it themselves. It's like, whoa, that's like some heavy stuff, man. I got to bring out the bong when I read that one.
Yeah.
But to turn
Don't
Mr.
smoke
Trump,
pot in here.
Oh, sorry, man. To turn Mr. Trump's negative energy, it's going to be legal as of January 1st. Just want to let you know, but not in a building. We'll have turned Mr. Trump's negative energy against him without embodying it themselves. They got to do jujitsu, he's saying.
He sounds like Marianne Williamson or something.
Yeah,
when he's
it's
writing
really
this.
right out of Marianne Williamson.
He's looking into his orb. And
so you read the essay. What do you think of his advice?
well, you might not surprise your listeners to know that I'm take some objection to it. Not because, I mean, he makes some very fair points that Donald Trump is shooting himself in the foot at every step. And, you know, he's in many ways his own worst enemy. That said, the takeaway, and correct me if you have something different, my takeaway from this was basically Democrats do nothing. You know, sit back and, you know, don't take any far, you know, don't propose anything that might shake things up. Just kind of let the, you know, let this all play out and don't play Trump's own game, you know. And to me, I just don't see, he's not proposing any policies. He's not proposing that the Democrats, you know, champion one single issue or that they take a different approach to politics. He's just saying kind of, you know, let Trump do his thing.
Well, this gets at the heart of something we talk about so much in this show. I'd love to hear what my next guests have to say about this, is when Trump says something offensive, which is pretty much every day, when Trump crosses the line of what is acceptable behavior, which is pretty much every day. We talked about this yesterday with his tweet war with John Legend, and which is so bizarre. And so how should Democrats react? And essentially what David Axelrod is arguing is that Democrats should largely not engage with Donald Trump on these matters and should let Donald Trump just ruin his own brand. And to sort of solidify his point, I'm going to read again from what Axelrod wrote. Trump is the potential erosion of great concern to Trump. No, this one, you know,
sorry.
This is not as deep as the one where he goes, turn Trump's negative energy against him without embodying themselves. That's straight out of the old Kung Fu TV show. But anyway, what should be done what should be of even greater concern to Trump is the potential erosion among the non-college educated white women he is counting as a core constituency. These women gave Trump a 27-point margin over Hillary Clinton in 2016. Wow. 27 points. Yet in a recent Fox News poll, Trump was beating former Vice President Joe Biden by just 4 points in that group. So what David Axelrod is arguing is that Donald Trump's behavior is turning, in this case, women against him. And so if the Democrats just let Trump beat Trump, they will be the beneficiaries of it, and there's no reason to get into the mud with him. And we've talked about this in the show so many times. It's like, is he just going to let him pound away? You're just going to let him call you names? You're just going to let him, you know, insult your colleagues? And I don't know. How far do you go with that?
Well, I don't think, to me, one thing that, you know, is pointed to here and is often, you know, people will bring up is that Donald Trump, in the run-up to the 2018 midterms, focused so much on this caravan of immigrants coming to the border and, you know, appealed to his base and the most, you know, basic xenophobic tendencies that exist in certain swaths of the electorate, and he failed, right? Because we did see a blue wave, and there's no evidence that those trumped-up fears did motivate anyone besides the most committed Trump supporters. Well, it's not like Democrats didn't respond to that. I mean, there was plenty of response in 2018 to saying, we need to welcome refugees. We're a country made up of immigrants. It's not as if there wasn't a response then. So to point to that and say, oh, well, Trump's going to screw himself over. Well, yeah, but there has to be some response to that. And I mean, I'm sure Trump's going to double down. But I will say there was an interesting report in the Daily Beast this week as well about how privately Trump has fretted to his advisors about this focus on socialism as the primary opponent that is.
He's trying to demonize the Democrats with the
exactly,
socialist
and that's all. That's what the Republican Party has been doing for upwards of 10 years now. But they've really doubled down on it now. As his Council of Economic Advisors put out this whole paper fretting about the rise of socialism in America, and they are in his State of the Union, he famously said America will never be a socialist country. So he's kind of using this as a way to potentially tar Democrats. But what this Daily Beast report says, and it talks to people close to Trump, that privately he thinks that might not work so well because he sees how well it sells. Talking to people about guaranteeing them health care, guaranteeing them housing, guaranteeing them education, people actually respond positively to that. And he privately has said he doesn't think that this is such a good message going forward. Say what you will about Donald Trump. He is somebody who has been able to kind of respond to the American psyche. And there's no way he would have won the Republican nomination and the presidency if he didn't have some skills at that. And he even understands that what all these advisors are saying, run against socialism, is not necessarily going to be the most effective tool, because at this point, everything from the post office to basic health care has been associated with socialism as when it comes to what the GOP says. So maybe that doesn't sound so bad to most people. And I will say, and a lot of the Cold War fears, I think, are, dissipated today. But also, that's a way to give an opposite message to what Trump is saying. You can just talk about how we have a responsibility as a society and a government to guarantee basic goods as rights of all people. And that is something I think people will respond to. And it doesn't mean you have to respond to every tweet that Trump says, but you have to provide some type of a positive vision for where America can go and how our political and economic systems can change to benefit working people rather than the wealthy and the oligarchs in our society that have run things for so long. And so I would just say that in response to this Axelrod piece, that you can let Trump be his own worst enemy and shoot himself in the foot, but you've also got to provide some type of an agenda and a platform that people can feel excited about. Otherwise, they're not going to come out and vote. And definitely, if you're going to try to inspire new voters, which is what both Warren and Bernie are banking on, is bringing in new voters into the fold. You can't just focus on that small group of some women in swing states who swung the election. Yes, we should try to win those people over, but there's so many other people. I mean, almost half of people in America didn't vote. We can bring new people into the process when you offer actual transformative change that will make people's lives better, like canceling their student debt.
Miles is saying all this on the eve of the tonight's presidential debate. 10 Democrats will take the stage in Houston. And we'll talk a little bit more about this with our next guest, Charise Williams, who's already in the studio with a mystery guest. We're going to introduce our mystery guest, see who that mystery guest could be. I'm very excited, Dee, about a mystery guest. We haven't had enough mystery guests on the show lately.
I know. I'm real excited.
I'm real excited, too. Miles, before we let you go, you want to tell folks where they can reach you if they want to get a hold of you, and what stories you're working on.
Sure. Well, if you want to reach me directly, you can email me at miles, M-I-L-E-S, at inthesetimes.com. But also, please, you can engage with me on Twitter, which is at Miles K. Lassin, M-I-L-E-S, K-L-A-S-S-I-N. Check out inthesetimes.com. I'll have a story going up there this week. There's also tons of other great content. We'll have some debate responses tomorrow. I'll be watching the debate, keeping up with it. I'm going to follow up on this chicken situation and see what goes on.
Yeah,
and hopefully
man.
we get these sandwiches back. Also, I just want to give a shout out because last night I was at a playoff basketball game in Chicago.
It wasn't the Bulls.
And sadly was not our beloved Chicago Bulls. But a lot of the Bulls were in attendance. We had Markkanen and Kobe White and Wendell Carter. A lot of the Bulls were there. And, the Sky won. It was they trounced the Phoenix Mercury. It was a great game. We had DJ Casper there leading the cha-cha slide. This is a guy who's, he's made so many homecomings and birthday parties shake it up for almost 20 years. So that was very fun.
The cha-cha slide guy was there?
Cha-cha slide,
Whoa.
DJ Casper himself,
Cha-cha.
DJ C.
Yeah,
If
Dennis
you've if you've
the
been to a wedding in the
Yeah.
past like 20 years, you probably heard the cha-cha
Oh,
slide.
my.
I used to do cha-cha slide at my kids' school all the time. So,
So this guy go on
Yeah.
to play the Las Vegas Aces on Sunday. It's another do or die elimination game, and then if they win that, they'll come back here for a 5-game series. So
all right, jump aboard, man. Jump
Yeah.
aboard the bandwagon.
get on the Chicago
one-
Sky. It's a blast.
Yeah, one winning team in Chicago. Hear that, Bears? Anyway, all right, Miles, thank you so much. Charise Williams on deck. We're going to bring her on with the mystery guest when we return.
Thank you.
Attention Chicago innovators and creators, 2019 Chicago Ideas Week is coming soon. October 12th through the 17th, this annual Ideas Festival is back, and it's the largest, most affordable Ideas Festival of its kind. They bring in hundreds of thought leaders from around the globe and some local to share ideas and spark action all across Chicago. To get a better idea of what to expect, here's a bit of audio from last year's Chicago Ideas Week with special guest and Chicago comedian Hannibal Buress.
The real reason I came home is just because I was traveling a lot anyway. I wasn't in New York that much, and I don't have a full-time job in New York. I work a lot, but I'm not in New York, so it was just like I don't need to be here anymore. And also I just wanted to work on different stuff here in Chicago. So I have this center that I'm working on the west side, Melvina Masterminds. It's going to be arts and then a tech program and after school programming for kids in the North Austin area. So just wanted to be back. There we go.
October 12th through the 17th, it's 2019 Chicago Ideas Week. Tickets go on sale to members on August 22nd and to general public September 10th. Once again, if you're an innovator or creator in the city of Chicago or even outside the city, you must join us for Chicago Ideas Week, October 12th through the 17th. For tickets and event information, head to chicagoideas.com. That's chicagoideas.com, and we hope to see you October 12th through the 17th.
I think we should step back and say something we don't often say enough.
So really that speech yesterday, because a lot of us came out of it and we thought to ourselves, well, I didn't learn anything new. But
No, I think a lot of people
it
did.
sounds like you weren't speaking to us, you were speaking to people perhaps who are a little less watching this day to day.
Yeah, I'm talking to taxpayers who feel like city government operates completely behind the curtain and that they really don't understand how it is that the city is utilizing its tax dollars. So it was really that audience that we were speaking to primarily, but not, as I said before, not just here in Chicago, but across the state. This is an issue that really unites a lot of us in cities and towns all over northern Illinois, but also south of I-80.
All right, everybody, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board, being awesome people, and bringing back our program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. A giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board. And, of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Isn't that right, Robert Mueller?
That's correct.
Hour number 2 of the Ben Joravsky Show starts right now. Okay, maybe not right now, but right now. It is Thursday, September 12th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, the pride of the 10th Ward, Ismael Cuevas, will be joining us. And we welcome Charise Williams with the Chicago Federation of Labor with a mystery guest.
Ooh, mystery guest.
Oh, my.
Yeah, man. That's some trippy stuff.
And now your host, not a mystery host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Charise is in the studio. Mystery guest is in the studio. We'll bring them both on. But first, we have an update from Dennis.
Yes. How's it going? Tonight is the night, everybody. It's the 2019 Democratic presidential debate number 3. And we're pumped about it over here on the Ben Joravsky Show. And listeners, get this. Our host, Ben Joravsky, doesn't know I saw this, but I saw it, okay? I saw it, buddy. I saw what you were sneaking. He brought in a little baggie today. 3 different presidential Kool-Aid flavors.
Yeah, man, I've been drinking a lot of Kool-Aid lately.
Oh, my God. He quickly put it away, but I saw all 3 flavors. We had Bernie Berry.
Bernie Berry.
So you had that.
Drinking that Bernie
Wild
Kool-Aid.
Warren Watermelon. You had that.
I
and
like Elizabeth Warren.
Kamala Cranberry.
I was really drinking the Kamala Kool-Aid about a month ago. I was really feeling Kamala. Then after the that second debate where she didn't do so well on the healthcare issue, her stock fell. But you know what? Let's see what she does tonight. She's on the stage with the big boys and the big girls, and there's something about Kamala Harris that I really like, D. I won't lie to you.
And if you know anything about our host, Ben Joravsky, he's just sitting there waiting with those packets of Kool-Aid after tonight's debate. He's going to rip one open tomorrow and be chugging it all day tomorrow. Isn't that right, buddy?
Yes. And
right now, the cup's empty. It's just water. I think that's Joe Biden's flavor.
Yes,
water.
Joe Biden water. By the way, I reserve the right to drink the Joe Biden Kool-Aid. Many of my guests of the leftist persuasion, Charise, come in here and trash Joe Biden, okay?
Oh, wow.
I always find myself sort of defending Joe Biden, which is a very difficult thing to do these days. But I reserve the right to drink the Joe Biden Kool-Aid, all right?
And speaking of Joe Biden, well, he's going to be at the debate tonight, and I think we found his game plan going into this debate because Joe Biden has just released a new ad.
Oh.
And the theme of this ad, hey, Obama's cool, guys.
Okay.
What's going on here? Remember Obama? He's awesome. So we have the latest ad from Joe Biden. Let's go ahead and hear it here. Take it away, Joey B.
We should step back and say something we often say enough as a party or as a nation. Barack Obama is an extraordinary man. I watched up close. He has character, courage, and vision. He was the president our children could and did look up to. He was a great president. And I was proud to serve as his vice president, but never more proud than the day we passed health care.
Love that music.
Yeah, the music is something. That's Joe Biden's not so subtle way, Charise, of reminding everyone that he was vice president to Barack Obama.
Yes.
Okay, in case anybody forgot that, right?
Right.
And I don't know if you saw this, but about last week or so, Biden stumbled. He was giving a little talk, or I don't know where it was, but he couldn't remember Obama's name. He had one of those brain freeze moments. So he's like, I served under
that guy.
That guy. I was like, oh man, I've been there, Joe. Okay, I've had those brain freeze.
We've been there.
So anyway, yeah, I'll be watching the debate tonight. By the way, I should have to say, tonight is my anniversary, my wedding anniversary. But I will be celebrating, my wife and I will be celebrating 37 years of wedded bliss, Charise, by watching the Democratic debate. But we're going to go out on Sunday, all right? We're going to go out on Sunday.
Good, I was going to say.
Yeah, because we were going to go, I told my wife, I got to really watch that debate to talk about it. I got to know what, all right. So you've been married 37 years. I guess you can wait a couple days to be.
A happy anniversary.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, so Charise, you're from the Chicago Federation of Labor. Why don't you introduce your mystery guest before we get started?
Sure. I'm excited about my mystery guest. He is Don Villar. He's our Secretary-Treasurer of the Chicago Federation of Labor. He is a fantastic union, proud member of
NABETC.
Right. But I'm happy that he's here. I can't wait for you guys to meet him. And so, Don, take it away.
Oh, thanks, Charise. And thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Don, now you've been around journalism for a long time. And talk about, you gave the acronym for your union. Talk about your union a little bit.
So I come out of the National Association of Broadcast Engineers and Employees and Technicians, Communication Workers of America, Local 41 here in Chicago. My union represents editors, photographers, writers, and producers, the folks behind the scenes at ABC, NBC, Fox, Telemundo, and Univision, and some other production houses in town. Can TV, down the road over on the west side, and sports broadcast television. So they like the tag word they use. We're the people who make TV happen, and people still watch TV.
Now, so in your career, what job did you have in the TV industry?
So I began as a news writer producer at WLS Channel 7 here in town back in 1992, actually 1991. And prior to that, I had a internship at WBEZ on the morning drive. So started my news broadcast career here, news career in Chicago. Pretty much stuck around, did 25 years at WLS. Mm-hmm. Stepped down in 2015 to lead the union. Yeah. So during my career, pretty much working on the morning. Most of that was on the morning show.
Oh, morning show. It's brutal.
Yeah, brutal, but covering, at least, you get in, you do the job.
What time did you have to come in at the morning show?
Midnight. Yeah. From 1996 to 2015, I was going into midnights to 9 and cover, that way when the folks would wake up in the morning, whether it was Jose Sanders, Judy Sue, or Lauren Cohn, or whoever else we had in between there. Oh, Leah Hope, Jose Sanders' co-anchor. They would be on the air doing the morning show. And when I started on the morning show, we only did an hour of morning news. An hour of morning news. But now when I left, almost an hour and a half, they were pushing 3 hours.
So what was your exact job? What were your responsibilities?
I was responsible for writing all the copy, all the scripts that they would read on the morning show, and doing the research and putting the stories together, working with a video editor to put the packages together, and the reporter as well. So oftentimes, everything on television is scripted.
Yeah.
Everything is practically scripted, so they need somebody to write and produce that.
So you're an ink stain wretch. You're just another writer, like the rest of us.
Yes, I'm a writer, but and we do the research and pretty much just get the facts as we do and send it out there. A lot of great stories during the 25 years at ABC. And naturally, in Chicago, the biggest stories are always politics, right?
Yeah,
politics. The same issues always come around budget time, right? We don't have money.
Yeah,
and the sky's falling.
Yeah.
Doomsday.
So were you always involved in the union all those years you were a writer?
Yeah. Well, it's a union job, so I got more involved in my union actually in 2004. We had a strike at ABC in 1998, and then ABC locked us out.
I don't remember that.
It was
Man, I don't remember that. It's funny. Well, of course I wasn't on strike. So
right.
I didn't have to worry about it. How long did that strike last?
That strike, I want to say it lasted 13 weeks.
Dang, wow. 13 weeks?
Yeah, 13 weeks. And we struck during, 1998 was the midterm elections. We struck during election coverage in 1998 was.
I was going to say, yeah.
1998 was the midterms. So we struck during the November 1998 during the election. Peter Jennings couldn't get the lights on because they couldn't get the show on. So we went on strike.
So it was all ABC, not just
ABC,
Chicago.
Yeah, network, because we're an O&O here, so Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, Washington.
Now, what does that acronym mean?
I'm sorry, owned and operated stations.
Yeah, okay.
Those are the stations that are owned by ABC, the network.
So how'd they get if the writers went on strike? I like to think that you can't do anything without a writer, Charise and Don. If the writers went on strike, how'd they get the show on?
They brought in a lot of scabs, but that's why. A lot of the news coverage at the time was awful. They could never get a clean show on. Live shots, reports were always a mess, and it was pretty much just anchor reading on the desk because the video wasn't there, or the remote wasn't there, the satellite wasn't hooked up. So it was, but they continued on, and as time went on, they started mastering some of the skills that we brought, but after about 13 weeks, the strike ended.
Well, how did you get the strike to end?
Well, actually, it was because Good Morning America was getting a new set, and who was it? Diane Sawyer, and who was this? Now I can't remember. Diane Sawyer and the co-anchor on Good Morning America.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Either.
Jeez.
That was a long time
I
ago.
know. Well, so they've, she's the one who put her foot down. It's like, you got to end this strike, ABC, and bring the workers back because guess what? We're getting a new set. We're getting a new program. And it's really killing our ratings.
Yeah.
Actually, I think to some extent it was just the ratings were going down, especially on that morning network. Today's Show and Good Morning America, they're always competing.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money for these, for stations. Remember, this is the 90s, before the internet. I mean, we still had the internet, but people still watched TV, and you didn't have the aggregation of like Google now, and I mean all the how they aggregate news and information, and we didn't have social media. Sure, you had video and cable, but local news, and I think at the time, a good majority.
13 weeks is no joke, Charise.
Oh, it happened around Christmas. That's the other thing. Like, oh man, it was tough. It was cold.
Was there ever a time when you thought you were going to lose?
You know what? No, I think deep down, at the end, we believe that we are, as a labor movement, as folks who stand together, with workers, we're on the right side at the end of the day. I know it's tough, and I know a lot of folks would get mad and upset, but at the end of the day, we knew we would prevail. It's a long road to hoe, but we knew that we could prevail, and we did. And although we didn't, there were a lot of concessions made. It's just at the end of the day, we went back to work. We got our raises and made a few concessions, and just back to the business of doing the news. But one thing that the strike exposed, back as technology has changed. You needed fewer and fewer people to operate a newsroom or a television station. Let's say if we went on strike in 10 years, a decade before that, in the 80s, before the automation and computerization, a strike would have been more effective. But in 98, as automation came in, it was so much easier for them to bring in replacements.
Well, we'll get into that. We'll talk about the gig economy showdown in California and the implications it has for the larger economy here in Illinois as well. But Charise, just reintroduce yourself. It's been a while since you've been on the show. Tell folks how you got involved in the labor movement.
Sure. So I'm the Director of External Affairs, and I always say in my current job, I literally stumbled into this job. I was working at the state treasurer's office, doing deputy chief of staff there. Had been there for 4 years with FAIR. Started off on his campaign volunteering, and basically worked my way up. I didn't know him, he didn't know me. I just kind of signed up for his campaign and thought he was a good dude. And then I ran for office for Cook County Commissioner in 2017. Like I said before, I ran because my godson was shot and killed, so I ran. It was a very emotional run for me, but I ran and lost. So it was 7 of us. I came in third. But during that race, I guess I got the attention of my boss and a little bit months, so I came back to work maybe in April. I ran into him at Dem Day at the state fair, so whenever that is, a couple months later, he said, I want to have a meeting with you, and 20 minutes into the meeting, he was like, surprise, I want to hire you. So I literally kind of stumbled into this particular job, but I had been part of the movement just for a long time. My mother is a teacher, 25 plus years. My bonus mom worked at Unite Here up until she retired from most of her life. My dad is a Marine, but retired. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
I forgot the Marine connection.
You can't.
Semper Fi, baby.
Right, Semper Fi, yes.
Your dad's a Marine.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So.
Was he hard on you as a kid? Did you have to sit up straight and stuff like that?
It's very, growing up, anyone who's grown up with military parents, it's a whole different upbringing. I mean, even just living on the bases, traveling, you learn to make friends really fast. You have to acclimate really fast.
Well, I forgot about this. So did you grow up in Chicago, or you just grew up all around the country?
Everywhere. We lived in Pendleton, Virginia, Okinawa, and then I came here, basically settled in Chicago. No, with my parents.
Oh, okay,
so yeah, we came here at 90, so I've been here for a while. But no, I was literally
Is your dad still alive?
Yeah, he's retired in Vegas.
He's in Vegas. Viva Las Vegas.
Yes, yeah. He's retired in Vegas. Yep.
It's like Treasurer Frericks week on the Ben Joravsky show. We
Oh,
had
really?
Levante Stewart. I don't know if you know him.
Yep.
He was on the show.
So I hired Levante.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was.
I stole him from Kwame Raoul.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a very good guest. He was on the show. What was it yesterday, D, or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah,
Okay.
he did a great job.
Yeah.
We're going to definitely bring Levante Stewart back. But anyway, all right. So that's the backgrounds
Yeah.
that you folks bring to your current jobs. All right, let's talk a little bit presidential debate. Tonight's the debate. For almost all day, we're talking about the different advices that various Democrats are giving to the candidates. Love to hear what you think that candidates should say in order to win over union voters. What do you think? What would you like to hear from the candidates tonight?
Yeah, so like personally, it's funny when you were talking about the different Kool-Aids and just Biden. Biden is like everyone's like drunk uncle, right? That's what kind of he reminds me of. Everyone has one, but as we've gotten more involved and as the candidates have started to show like who they are and stuff, they're seeing some. I'm starting to like warn, for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things is that what I want to hear them say is to talk about like how we can actually have like a real plan. People always talk about doing things, but what's the action about it, right? As Don said before, we're about action, right? So how are we going to get it done? How are we going to lift the middle class? How are we going to lift everyone? How are we going to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves? And who's the president that can really get it done, right? Who can unify all the different interests, because everybody has all their different interests, but find some of those common threads. And I want to hear kind of how they do it. I feel like there's been so much attention, and this is just 100% personal, on the different groups, right? Whether it's like the blacks or the Latinx or just whatever the different groups, but not necessarily the general body, right? How is we as like everyone, Americans, and all of us are gonna be able to make our country what it is, right? Make it how we were before, like how we were unified and people didn't feel emboldened to walk down the street and call people the N-word and think that was 100% okay. Like we're going into a really dangerous negative space, and I want to hear how they're going to help get us out of that space.
What would you like to hear, Don?
I think as a labor activist and Secretary Treasurer, the third largest labor federation in the country, a message that rings with workers. Any of these, while we haven't, the AFL-CIO or the CFL, we haven't backed anybody in this race yet, but we're waiting to hear. And naturally, we'll get our direction down the road. But which of these candidates really lifts up the labor movement, the workers out across the country who need to be lifted up? And at this point, I mean, there's some folks who've said some really good things, but at the end of the day, I think we need to, we care about the working class. And right now they're saying all the great things for the working class, right? Yeah, all these things, but there's a lot of issues that are still out there. Fair trade versus free trade, and changing laws to address some of the, because labor and employment laws need to be updated to the new economy. Those issues, and bringing jobs and job training and opening the opportunities for other, for marginalized communities. Those are the issues that this president, that we hope to hear from one of the Democratic candidates. Labor naturally is going to be a big part of any victory for the Democrats.
Charise, you were talking about you ran for office, so you have firsthand experience of dealing with the pressures of being a candidate. Relating to, you came in at the tail end of my conversation with Miles about David Axelrod's column that he wrote for the New York Times, where his advice essentially was for Democrats to apply the rules of jiu-jitsu, which is you use your opponent's strength against him. And so in his case, what he is essentially saying is a metaphor for Democrats should allow Donald Trump to just be the idiot that he can often be in his rantings and railings and his tweets, etc., and then just turn people off against him. As a candidate, as a former candidate, do you buy into that, or do you think there's a moment where a Democrat has to fight back and has to deal with the kinds of absurd tweets? I don't know if you followed the John Legend.
I did, in the Chrissy Teigen.
Yes,
Chrissy Teigen and John Legend Twitter war. Yeah, I followed it. I was Team Chrissy.
Big surprise there. I didn't think you'd be Team Trump.
No, I think you let an idiot be an idiot until it gets dangerous. Right. Yes, I understand. I read Axelrod's column also, and I agree with him up until a certain point. But then it gets to a point, it's almost like a bully, right? At school, you keep getting bullied and bullied. Eventually, you have to stand up to the bully. There's a difference between engaging and being petty, right? I feel like that's not what should happen. And I think if any of the candidates do that, it's actually going to work against them. It'll prove Trump right. But you can't seem weak in front of him either, in front of his base, in front of just the country. Where that point is, I don't think we've reached that point yet. I don't know if that's point. I mean, he does something horrific and stupid every single day where people are almost becoming desensitized, which is just terrible in itself. But I think he's almost like a little kid who throws a temper tantrum, and if you don't, they get louder and louder and louder the more you ignore them. And I feel like he's going to get to that point the more that people don't engage. But just to let it happen, unfortunately, they ignored him, and that's how they won 2016. They ignored him.
Well, I talked about this a lot, and I'd love to get your thoughts about this as a former candidate. That moment in the 2016 debate where Hillary Clinton was talking, and it was the debate where they got to move around stage, and Donald Trump started moving right behind Hillary Clinton, and she ignored him, but we could all see it. And it was clearly an act of intimidation by Donald Trump, as a disrespectful act. He was coming into her personal space, if you will, steal your TV background, Don. He was stealing her time, and he was sort of like, in a way, taunting her, and she ignored it. And I often wonder, what's the proper thing to have done? What do you think? What would you have done?
So
I would daughter of a Marine.
Right.
What would
I would have not ignored it. But again, we're different people. So I ran again. It was 7 of us. It was 2 women. I was the youngest of the people running. So the intimidation factor was there every day from the candidates, from their staff, multiple people. And you ignore it to a point where until it became disrespectful. So there was times during the debates where I'd be cut off, where I'd have to immediately check them. And I know how to check somebody without cussing. And I did that. I was respectful, but it was basically in the words of Maxine Waters, reclaiming my time. This is not for you and for you to fall back. I've had to tell somebody to fall back, to move away. If that had been me, and somebody walked up on me, your first instinct, you want to elbow him, but you can't because, you're on national TV. But, simply would have moved out of the way and asked him almost what the hell is your problem? Without saying it. I'm sure there's probably an appropriate way to say that.
Or you could take the hell out, just say, what's your problem?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if she had done that?
I think it would have been great. I wish she would have done it. I wish she wouldn't have ignored it. I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I think it's almost like confronting him right then and there and this is not your place. You're not stronger than me. You're not going to beat this. Yeah. I mean, it would have been fantastic for her to see that personally.
Well, let's just talk about Chrissy Teigen for a moment before I kick it to Don and ask his opinion on this. We talked a lot about this on the show yesterday. We were having fun reading Donald Trump's tweets and just taking the dive and how absurd they are, because they are absurd.
Absurd.
I love the way she responded.
Right.
Now, I don't know if it would be appropriate for...
it's not appropriate,
to say it. I'm not even going to say it on the air because Dennis won't let me swear on the air, although it is a podcast.
Can't do it.
The guests can swear. I'm not allowed to swear. How about that for a double standard? It is a podcast. You can swear. It's not ABC TV. Right? You can say you want to drop the F-bomb. Go ahead. Plenty have on this show. But I loved it. I just that's how that's to me how you deal with them.
Right.
And you're not going to win over Trump supporters, but you're never going to win them over anyway. Right. They're gone. They're lost, man. They just so committed to this guy.
Right. And you're coming out of a mother, like the mother's like rallied against her. Like this is like a woman who's a mom who does Huggy Pampers commercials. You know, you're attacking her.
Wait, what mothers came out against her?
I'm sorry, came for her.
Yeah, for her.
Supported
Yeah,
her.
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
came out and supported her. Yeah, came out and supported her, which is, you know, Trump is saying some of those women are his base. I mean, it's even something small like that can just turn people. It's not about like really anything, you know, big or political or life-changing, but like don't attack a woman and her kids.
Well, okay, so I'll throw this at you. Like Dennis said, one of the Kool-Aids I'm drinking is Elizabeth Warren.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Elizabeth Warren a lot. I like the fact that she's been pro-union her whole working career,
she sure has.
And she's fearless, and she stands up to people, and she's smart. I think she'd be a great president. So I'm thinking about her. So when I throw that out there, some of my guests come in and go, well, Ben, she can't win because of Pocahontas, because Donald Trump gave her a nickname, Pocahontas. I think that's the most absurd thing I've heard, but that's just my opinion. How do you think she should handle that?
Yeah,
because you know he's going to come at her.
Oh, he's
with
definitely
that.
going to come at her. I mean, so the Pocahontas thing is a real thing. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be a real thing. I don't think it's enough to hurt her, but a way to do it, a part of it is also to kind of embrace it. So think about like the idiot that Trump is. He started selling Sharpies.
Yes.
Did you hear about this for his Alabama thing?
I know all about that.
Yeah, started selling Sharpies. You know, for those type of voters who are maybe kind of oscillating, maybe not all the way Trump, but maybe just not ready for some of the super or left liberals or whatever they're saying. I think she has to embrace it in a way where she doesn't, you know, give fire to it, but it's like, it's whatever. Like, don't let it fluster. Like, let it roll off her back. People going to have names. People make names about me. I'll be like, all right, cool, okay, and then what? And you keep it moving. Like, you don't put heat to the fire of it, but you don't ignore it. I feel like ignoring it like it never happened doesn't work either. Yeah.
What's your take on all this, Don?
You know, as a veteran journalist, I think all his tweets are always getting free news coverage. And, you know, as a news person, you always want to get the other side on the tweets, and that's what fuels that news story. And I think maybe Axelrod probably has some good points. If he tweets something out and you don't give him a response, that story dies on the vine. His tweet dies right there. But because people want to give their counter, their opinion, and they start a Twitter ramp, that gets the news coverage. I think maybe if some electeds will just stop responding to his tweets and let it die on the vine, and then we won't. Maybe some of the news outlets, as news outlets fail to get anybody to react to his comments or his tweets, they'll just, which are antics and rants, that might kill the story.
Well, here's the thing. I'm reading Axelrod's essay and his advice, and it seems as though a reaction by igniting the coverage. And let me explain this, Don. In other words, what Axelrod's arguing is that the more absurd and silly Donald Trump behaves, the more people turn against him. Right. So if Democrats just ignore him and the story dies, then you're not drawing attention to his greatest weakness, which is himself. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, I could make an argument that it's better to counterattack, if only to get reporters to keep the story going. Mm-hmm.
But I think, if he's a guy who craves attention, so if he throws something out there and it's not getting any attention, he'll throw another thing out there. And then next, it'll be just a stream of rants and wackadoodle tweets.
Yeah.
And then that'll expose him for what he really is. Right now, folks are running around, the emperor is wearing no clothes, right? And if he keeps it up, and he's throwing out there just to get the reaction, right? And he's always doing that. And if he's not getting the reaction, he will keep throwing it out there, and maybe that the story is maybe as maybe a news coverage. Oh, here's what the president tweeted, and then here's what he tweeted 24 hours later or 12 hours later, and that's the stream of consciousness that the public will see that guy's crazy.
Give us a little behind the scenes from your days as a news writer for all those years at ABC. And let's say the current story about, I call it Weathergate. I don't know if you've been following this one. It's pretty hilarious. Donald Trump with the hurricane hitting Alabama. And he essentially kept that going with with one outrage after another, like threatening meteorologists and
NOAA,
and you got to say yes, the hurricane was going to hit Alabama, et cetera, and so forth. Just take us, if you could, to the what a behind the scenes would be at a newsroom as they try to figure out how to cover this.
Well, I think maybe we covered local stories, but on occasion, just some of my friends who might be at the network level, naturally, you get a Trump tweet, and then the first thing they'll look at is like, who can react to, who do we know out there, or who's the tweet directed to? Let's get their comment about this tweet, or has anybody from the other side commented on this tweet? And we put that graphic up, like, here's the tweet, here's Trump's tweet, and here's what, like, let's take the John Legend, Christy Teigen example. You had Trump's tweet, then here's what the whole news story is about the tweet, right?
Yeah.
And maybe getting some, and I don't think they picked up any man on the MOS's man on the street.
Is that what they?
No, they didn't do any. I didn't see any man on the street.
Yeah, it was.
What's
just,
your reaction?
Yeah. All it was that they did a whole. I mean, how many hours have they expended on that now?
Oh, a couple days.
Couple days now on just this tweet, and then the reaction, and then everybody piling on, and now that tweet is getting traction. And the same with his. His little shtick.
So when you're debating what you put on the news, do you actually talk about in terms of what people want to hear, or do you try to put some kind of like a significance to it? In other words, is there somebody in the newsroom saying, "I'm sorry, this is so petty, this tweet story we have to have a in-depth story about Brexit." Something really, or the thing that everybody is talking about and tweeting back and forth.
Unfortunately, I think in the industry the way it is now, it feeds off of that.
Yeah.
Right. I think there was a time when there are other stories going on in this city or in this world that need to be covered. Like one thing is his tweets are distracting the public from what's going on in Congress and how, how he's packing the courts, and how he's ripping apart the civil service. So meantime, he's tweeting out here, and he's back in the truck, in the back door of the White House, and carting off all of our wealth.
All right, before I let you guys go, I got to get some comment about what went down in California. I'm going to talk about this with issues on deck as well. This is pretty big news coming out of the state of California, and one more time I'll sum it up for everybody. The General Assembly in California, or whatever they call it, we call it a General Assembly in Illinois, the State House, the legislators voted for a bill that essentially makes drivers for Lyft and Uber employees of Lyft and Uber, as opposed to being private contractors. As a result, they're eligible for benefits that they wouldn't ordinarily get. Everything from possible sick leave benefits to minimum wage benefits. It's going to increase the cost of an employee to Lyft and Uber. And Lyft and Uber have already said they're going to go to the mat on this one any way they can. The bill has not been signed into law yet by Governor Newsom, although he says he will sign it into law. Mm-hmm. But clearly this has implications for labor across the country.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Talk about this a little bit.
Ben, besides being a journalist, besides being a labor activist, I'm also a civil rights employment lawyer. So
dang, man, you got a law degree.
So I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I got into law school, was to understand more about our labor employment laws in this country and the development of it. And it all boils down to this. I mean, labor employment laws haven't been changed in over 60, 70 years. So our laws have not kept up with a changing workplace at the end of the day. And the growth of independent contractors, the gig economy, that's the new work, and our laws haven't kept up with it, and that is what the misclassification is what it's called. So folks who in the past would have been traditional employees of a company, they're now being 1099 or independent contractored out, and that's what's going on here, and it's about time, and that's what's happening all over the country. More and more, I mean, the statistics are pretty high. We have more and more independent contractors, 1099 employees today than ever before. And a lot of them are in the gig economy. It's because of the gig economy. And we need laws to address that. And I think it's great. And I'm sure here in Illinois, we do have something similar, the misclassification of employment law. But that's covering mostly the building construction trades. And it would be great to extend that law.
Well, one of the interesting things about the fight in California and is that at some point Uber and Lyft tried to turn the trades against the drivers, and the trades stood with the drivers.
Absolutely.
The Teamsters stood with the drivers. They did not want, because they viewed it as a threat to their industries as well, because there would be a proliferation of countries. They'd start apping out all these companies, and everybody would be a private contractor. Nobody would have employment, so it would be an attack on all labor workers. Do you think that a bill like this would be popular in Illinois, Charise, if it were to be proposed?
Popular by who? No, absolutely not.
Well, not by the employers. I'm talking about by people, state reps. There'd be a lot of resistance.
Yeah, I think the resistance would be overwhelming. I mean, I can't, I can't see, I would never say nothing's impossible happening, but it's going to be hard as hell to get that here. I mean, I think that people would be ready to fight. It's a shame what Uber and Lyft are doing in California now. Like basically not letting these people have a right to have a good living, have a good life with just simple things like healthcare, things like that, like things that they have that enable a right to have. I mean, I think it would be hard as hell to pass it here.
I mean, like I said, there's already existing misclassification of worker law in Illinois, and it'd be great if somebody just made one little sentence change, and that could flip,
it's a Democratic state. We have a Democratic governor. We have a Democratic House. We have a Democratic Senate, a Democratic treasurer.
Democratic treasurer.
Don't forget that guy. So that would be an interesting battle if they brought it to Illinois. Don Villar, Charise Williams, thank you so much for coming in. The great Ish Cuevas is sitting on deck getting ready to come on, the pride and joy of the 10th Ward. And thank you so much, guys, for coming in. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care. We'll be right back with Ish. Bye. Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Nick Confessori's with us from New York Times. Has a question for you, Nick.
Hey, Mary. So I want to ask you to put on your old hat for a second as chairman of the DCCC and a House strategist.
Every time I hear that, I'm hearing like that's a yarmulke or
that's
something
right.
like
Well,
that.
this is what I want to ask.
Catch Rahm Emanuel at Zany's this weekend, huh? He's got tons of jokes. Today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by, all together now, everybody, Green Element Resale. Good job. It's located at 6241 North Broadway in Chicago, and people, it's badass. Let me tell you all the stuff they have here at Green Element Resale. What I like to do here, if you're new to the show, I'm on their website, and they have a lot of pictures. I just go and look at what I see in the pictures here. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, that's a mattress. Mattresses at Green Element Resale. If you need a mattress, head there right now, 6241 North Broadway. More information at greenelementresale.com. The board game Cranium is at Green Element Resale. Guys, I'm a Cranium master. Get that at Green Element Resale. Invite producer Dennis over. We'll make a night out of it, huh? Oh, there's an oscillating fan. That looks awesome. That's a Green Element Resale. Tons of designing things, decor, tables, chairs, movies, books. Holy crap, this place is awesome. 6241 North Broadway in Chicago. If you're ever on Broadway between Devon and Granville, stop in and say thank you, because Green Element Resale, it's a thrift shop that helps bring you The Ben Joravsky Show. We love them. It's Green Element Resale, 6241 North Broadway. Find more information at greenelementresale.com. All right, enough about Green Element Resale. Let's talk about you getting the inside scoop on all things Chicago Bears. Ben, make that noise.
Reset 2020. Huh, huh.
And
Blue Dog. Wait, hold on. Don't forget this. This is when I'm
that's him waving his hands for all of our downloaders.
Ish, you ever watch football? I know you're a soccer guy. Are you into football at all?
Randomly.
Random. Okay. You ever notice when a quarterback comes to the line and he's playing in front of the home team and he does an audible. An audible means, for all you non-football fans, the quarterback changes the play. All right, D? That's what an audible is, all right? So he motions to the crowd, stop cheering. And the crowd dutifully stops cheering so he could yell out the new play. And he go, Blue Dog, Blue Dog.
Hey, this is a live read for an ad.
Oh, sorry.
Get the inside scoop on all things Chicago Bears this football season with the annual Sun-Times Bears magazine. Dive into features of players, coaches, games, and plays, and get excited for the 100th season of football. Blue Dog. This collectible magazine is just what you need to get ready for this fall. Ready, Set 2020. You can order your copy of the magazine at suntimes.com/C as in cat, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, shop. Once again, suntimes.com/CST shop. Grab your copy today. People, welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Ismael Cuevas with us, the pride and joy of the 10th Ward. He's actually from the Southwest side, but he works in the 10th Ward now, top aide to Alderwoman Sue Sadlowski-Garza. D, you got an update for us?
Absolutely, I do here. Tonight is the night. It is Democratic presidential debate number 3. We've slimmed the candidates down. We've got it down to one night now, so that's good. We don't have to do the 2-night thing. It's going to be tonight. Everybody, if you got nothing going on, make sure to watch it. We're going to try and post the link to watch it on the Facebook page. And then tomorrow, we're all going to get together, talk about our notes, and have a good time and talk about it. But before we get out of here, what we're going to do, thanks to CNN.com, they gave us their 6 things to watch for during tonight's Democratic debate. We're kind of pressed for time, so we're just going to go ahead and not do number 6, because it's pretty silly if you ask me. Their number 6 is one night better than 2. We don't need to talk about that. So we're going to do the 5 things, all right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Is one night better than 2? Yeah, what is that? CNN, just narrow it down to 5. Yeah, what are you trying to do here? So we're going to do the top 5 things throughout this interview with Ish. We'll do them. And you know, what the hell? Let's go ahead and start with the first one. The first one, well,
number 5.
It's number 5. Yeah, That's the first one. We'll work our way to 1. All right. So number 5, what's Yang planning?
Oh, okay. Andrew Yang.
Says here, Andrew Yang has a big idea, giving every American $1,000 per month and a devoted online following that calls itself, you know what they call themselves, right? The Yang Gang.
Oh, okay. It makes sense, doesn't it?
He's not sipping that Kool-Aid, guys. He doesn't
I'm not feeling Andrew Yang.
He doesn't have Yang in his Kool-Aid bag.
Yeah.
But he hasn't made a mark in Democratic debates so far. Will that change? His campaign manager made an ominous promise. The Daily Beast, okay, who cares? But hey, will Yang make an effect?
Well, in my humble opinion, no. Okay, and Andrew Yang is a one-trick pony with his proposal to, what is it, 1,000 is it, D, or 10,000?
1,000, that's 1, how many miles Rahm Emanuel bikes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. How many miles again, Rahm?
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Oh, thanks, Rahm. So I do not think I'm really shocked that he's made it this far in the debate process, and apparently he's been able to raise a lot of money through online contributions, and somehow or other he found a poll that has him at 2%. So God bless him, but I do not believe he's going to make a significant move tonight's debate.
I don't think so either.
You don't think so either? They don't give him much time to talk when you're one of the fringe candidates, so you're
even if he does have the time, I don't think people are
picking up
or
on
listening.
Him.
No.
Yeah. Are you picking up on him?
I'm not. No.
Yeah. Okay. And you're a millennial, so
that's what I was going to say. I mean, from the conversations I've had with friends, I don't think anyone has ever mentioned him.
Okay.
And
not a part of the Yang Gang.
That is definitely not a part of it. You got number 4. Should I go on to Ish right here?
You go ahead and talk with Ish, and after a while, we'll do
number 4.
All right. When you're ready, just interrupt us, okay? For
Deal.
number 4. That'll be the big debate tonight. I'll be watching it. I don't know if you were in the room, Ish, when I announced that tonight is my anniversary, my 37th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. 37 years of wedded bliss. But my wife, man, she's so cool. We were going to go out, but I said, hey, I got to watch the debate. What? He's pointing at it. Dude, he's pointing at my ringless fingers. Okay, I'll tell
I didn't want to say it out loud.
No, man, he was like, where's the ring? What are you trying to pick up girls in the, in the cafeteria?
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. No, what happened is, Ish, I can't stand rings, all right? So I had a wedding ring at one point, and I was always taking it off, and one day I lost it. So I haven't had a wedding ring since I think I lost it within a month. And I just hate rings. I just don't like them. My fingers get all swollen. So everybody knows I'm married, all right? I mean, it's no joke.
That's cool, as long as your wife understands.
Yeah, she understands.
And she accepts it.
Yeah, she accepts it. She put up with me for 30 seconds. Believe me, not wearing a ring is the least of. But that's funny. Ish was like, boy, where's your ring, man?
I like that.
Because and a lot of I read a lot of detective books and watch a lot of detective shows, and one of the things in a convention is that when a man goes on the prowl to pick up a woman in a bar or something, he takes off his ring. But because of this, he's had the ring on. There's
a mark.
A mark. Well, the sun tan is a ring tan, and so people, where's the ring? But that's not the case with me. I haven't worn a ring since 1982 or something like that. Anyway, that's how much I love politics. My wife and I are going to be watching the debate. We're going to go out Sunday though, so
cool.
That'll be cool. All right. So first of all, let's just talk a little bit about the Labor Day parade. Sue said last week.
It was pretty awesome. We had thousands of people on Ewing Avenue. My coworker Nicole did a fantastic job in organizing this Labor Day parade for the 5th annual one for our community. We actually had 25 elected officials come out. We had Mayor Lori Lightfoot, we had Tony Preckwinkle, Ana Valencia, people from all over the city. I was surprised. Usually it's elected officials from the south side and the southeast side, but we had people from all over the city. So then we had over 100 units. All the trades, all the unions. It was awesome. It was a great family.
You had Lightfoot and Preckwinkle in the parade. They've been feuding a little bit behind the sines. Did they get along during the parade?
Yeah, everyone got along.
Yeah.
Everyone got along. Yeah.
Every now and then when they turned down Ewing Avenue, all of a sudden, with Lori didn't think anybody was looking. Hey, I didn't hit her, huh? What? No, just kidding. That didn't happen.
It was a good time. And then the Eddie Fest was also a success. Crucial Conflict had a good crowd.
Damn, I wish I would have been there. I forgot awesome. Crucial Conflict was going to be.
That's a 90s rap band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Farley Jackmaster Funk, the DJ, was also there playing house music. And then actually one of our coworkers from the 10th Ward office, Alyssa Morgan, also performed. She's a singer, so she did a very fantastic job in flowing with the crowd. So
Eddie Fest is named for Ed Sedlowski, Sue Garza's father, legend from the southeast side, legendary steelworker and leader of the Steelworkers Union for many years.
And of course, mark your calendars for 2020. Labor Day weekend is going to happen again.
Good God, 2020. Man, that'll be serious because 2020's Labor Day will be on the eve.
Ready, set 2020?
Reset 2020.
Sorry,
man. But the 2020 Labor Day parade will be right on the eve of the November 2020 winner takes all election showdown.
Yes, sir.
This, this like the anticipation. I'm feeling it right now.
Imagine if we can get a presidential candidate to come by. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Well, if Yang wins, he's not coming. All that stuff you were just saying there. Good Lord.
Yeah, sorry. Bleep you, Ish. Yeah, that would be pretty amazing if you could get a presidential. I would really hope that the Democrats would be all aboard with labor.
That's what I would hope.
2020.
So.
Yeah, you know, I mean, is that one of the things you're looking for? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking for that and having those conversations. I think that a lot of undecided voters, again, are up for grabs, and I think the conversation of what you were talking about earlier with the Uber and Lyft, the gig economy, making sure that the Democratic Party establishment is advocating for workers in the gig economy, workers who still haven't received their wages increases as the living wage rises across the country. So those are the conversations that I'm hoping that we could hear in the. the alternatives, either there was no alternative, or the alternative was, find a job wherever it is. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work with organizations across the city, public schools. There's this thing called CTE programs, Career to Education. And the CTE programs is how do we get the trades, how do we get vocational programs back into the schools, because a lot of those programs basically either got there wasn't enough funding for them, they got cut. As you may know, for example, Washburn Trade School, it was an entire campus in the west side of Chicago that focused specifically on trades. They had bricklayers, pipe fitters, carpenters, and the entire structure got demolished, literally, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of students, whether it's my generation or in the past, even in the past 5 years, there's let's call them the college-going students, and then you have this other population of students that is either going to enter a low-wage job, working at their local, sales store, whatever, in the neighborhood, and they're not going to ever get a good middle-class wage, benefits, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm working with the unions. I'm working with folks from the CFL, and trying to get an understanding of pre-apprenticeships and connecting them back into Chicago Public Schools. So that's something that I'm hoping that I and my team and all the room in Garza can hope to push for students.
No, I could tell you right now the generational gap between you and me, which is enormous. I'm a lot older than you. It was a different world when I came out of school in the early 70s, and there were far more vocational opportunities for kids in the trades, et cetera, and so forth. And at an early age, when we got to school, we were told, hey, it was almost like within a school, you were channeled into a certain direction. So they did it through test scores. So some kids were channeled into the academic course where they would be basically prepared for college, and other kids would be channeled into a vocational career.
Right.
And there were shops, shop training, auto shops, and all kinds of basic skills that they would need. And the thing of it is that in some cases it was an unfair designation, if you follow what I'm saying. Like, kids were unfairly, sometimes when they looked at their academic records, said, oh, this kid will never amount to anything academically, we're just going to put him in the vocational section. Okay, even if the kid was lousy with his hands.
And you know what? It's interesting you bring that up, because that's a conversation that I think that I'm personally, before working in city government, I used to work at Farragut High School in Little Village, right? And so a lot of parents, you also wanted their children to go to college, and always looked at the trades as like, I don't want my kid to do that. That's something that I'm doing. I don't want them to get dirty, or I don't want them to suffer the long hours. But a lot of times, for example, in the who have Mexican parents who were immigrants, like my parents, right? Their conditions that they faced is different from the conditions that we have now, where they, in their home countries. I'm talking about in the industry, right? In the warehouses, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So here in the U.S., of course, we have, I think our labor conditions are much exceed those of like Latin America, and so it's like also having a conversation with parents and engaging them. Like the jobs that you left in your home country are not the jobs that you have here, and these are like middle class, high paying wages where you don't have to work the minimum wage. You can make 2 or 3 or 4 times the amount of the minimum wage working as an electrician. And those conversations we have to figure out how we can have those conversations within the school setting, not just with educators, but as parents as well. I'm a big advocate for having a holistic conversation with the community members, with the mentors, with the parents, with the children, so we can really tackle this issue. And it's about bringing people out of poverty. And I think that if we bring people out of poverty, we can also tackle the issues of violence that we have across the south side and the west side. Yeah.
By the way, what did you do at Farragut? I didn't know you taught at Farragut.
I didn't teach there. I was actually an after-school program coordinator through an organization called Enlace Chicago. And so I worked at Farragut, basically providing after-school programs for youth. So we had a robotics club, gardening club. So we would get funding, and then I would fund different programs for youth to be involved in after school.
D, you got number 4 for us?
Absolutely, I do. Thanks to CNN.com, we are learning the top Well, they have 6, but we've narrowed it to 5. Number 6 wasn't that good. 5 things to watch for during tonight's Democratic debate. Number 5, how will Andrew Yang perform? Ish loves Andrew Yang. My goodness. And by the way, let me just say here, Ish, man, I complimented his shirt before he came in. His shirt is awesome. I want your shirt.
Yeah, it's a nice shirt.
It's got bicycles on his shirt. And I have to ask, hey, did you know that Mayor Rahm, well, I'll let Rahm tell you.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
You know that? He just biked around.
How many miles did he go, D?
Oh.
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Nearly 1,000. You ever done that?
I biked to Wheaton the other day. That was tiring.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy crap. How long did that take?
Took like 3 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a long haul.
Mayor Rahm. No, did you see Mayor Rahm while you're riding? that was Mayor Rahm from his appearance Sunday on the George Stephanopoulos show, where he talked about how he biked around Wisconsin and Michigan, and nobody came up to him in all the restaurants he stopped in cafes or what have you, stores. Nobody came up to him and endorsed expanding health care, okay? So he took that as an indication that real America is against health care. They don't want health care. I think that's Rahm's view of the world.
Yeah, no one approached the sweaty guy at the diner about health care.
The weird guy who just wandered out. That's Rahm Emanuel. By the way, he's not the most approachable guy in the world. So who's going to go up to Rahm Emanuel and snap your head off? Like a little terrier.
But seriously, Ish, I'm just saying.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Maybe you should give that shirt to him. He's the true rider of this, all right?
Hey, I'm glad you like my shirt because some people
real.
in my office don't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Not the Alderwoman Garza.
I'm not going to say who, but some people don't like it.
Come on, Sue. It's a cool shirt, man.
That's Morocco. I really
love
like
the
it.
glasses, by the way. He looks very scholarly today. Did you notice that?
All right, it's now time for
Number 4.
Number 4 on what to watch for in tonight's debate between those old Democrats. According to CNN, number 4, how will the low polling candidates stand out? Yes,
we just got finished talking about Andrew Yang. We're going back to Andrew Yang.
It says here, going on the attack hasn't worked. Yeah, tell Tulsi Gabbard that. But that doesn't mean some Democrats won't be willing to try it. Still, most are looking for other ways to stand out. So, is there going to be a candidate tonight looking to go right after the other candidate, kind of like Tulsi did with Kamala?
Kamala, yes, and Kamala did to Biden.
Yep.
If you recall, debate number 1, Kamala Harris from California, the senator from California, rose in the polls because she so decisively went after Joe Biden. My guess is Cory Booker's going to come out strong. I think Cory's going to throw it. I got a feeling that Cory's going to come out with the fists flying when he can get his 5 minutes in. I remember the mayor of New York, de Blasio. I thought he hurt his campaign in the. De Blasio's still running for president. I don't know what he's thinking. Anyway, but he was the one who was like yelling out, "Hey, what about blood?" Everybody, nobody, wait your turn. So my bet is that Cory Booker comes out. Do you have a sense someone's going to hit hard tonight, Ish?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm just gonna wait in here. I've been trying to read their campaign websites. I was looking at Twitter. I just feel like they're all gonna try to go for Biden and try to
trash Biden tonight. Yeah, that could be a trash Biden.
I don't know. $20 says Yang calls Cory Booker a douchebag. I'm calling it. I'm calling it.
I don't think that's going to happen. Yang is going to be talking about that $1,000 thing, which in my head somehow got elevated to $10,000. Now,
you know what really annoys me about Yang?
What's
his
that?
His TEDx type of talking. It's like he's like talking really fast, and it's like matter of fact. Like few people, unless you watch TEDx and you like TEDx,
I'm not feeling.
You're not going to like an Andrew Yang type of person.
On the other hand, I have to say this: I like the fact he doesn't wear a tie. I'm not a tie guy myself, right? So, Andy, I don't wear ties, and I'm not going to wear a tie.
Once again, Ish, you're really ruining your chances of getting him in that parade next year. Time for
Number 3.
That's right, number 3. Our number 3 thing to look for tonight on the debate: the dangers of punching up. According to CNN, it says here the most memorable moment of the first 2 Democratic debates was Harris eviscerating Biden over his previous opposition to federally mandated school busing, and it gave Harris a temporary jolt in the polls, sending her briefly into the high teens. Since then, though, she has fallen back in the pack and headed into the 3rd debate. Harris's campaign is suggesting the risk isn't worth repeating.
Wait, Harris? They're not going to go strong at Biden. They're going to defy
according to
Ish's prediction.
Wizards and experts at CNN. Yeah.
Okay, so she's not. So what is she going to do? Her problem is that she did such a bad job of articulating her position on health care. And I'm just going to say, folks, Rahm Emanuel is perhaps the only Democrat in America who thinks it's a good idea for Democrats to advocate doing nothing to protect people's health care interests, okay? So every other Democrat who's actually running for president has got to come up with a solution to this very vexing problem, this challenge of trying to get people health care.
Well, and it sounds like these know-it-alls at CNN, the former California Attorney General's new approach, direct her prosecutorial style toward Trump.
Oh, so just ignore everybody on stage and rip Trump. Okay, well, when in doubt, do that. You know, that's
going to happen regardless.
Yeah, they just got to all rip Donald Trump. All right, what's number 2, D?
Oh, you're ready to roll on.
I
all
love this thing. I'm looking at the clock here.
All right, everybody, if you just tuned in, I'm not sure why, but we've been doing this like 2 hours. But hey, if you just tuned in, we're doing the top 5 things to look for in tonight's debate, and it is time for
number 2.
Number 2 on the list is, one second here, where does Bernie Sanders fit in?
Where does he fit in? Where does Bernie Sanders fit in?
Yeah.
On the left. That's where he fits in.
They're loving these CNN.
CNN. Wait, CNN. This is what they came up with?
It says polls show that Sanders is right there with Biden and Warren atop the field, and his campaign has howled that the political process is writing him out of stories about the state of the race, even though he is firmly entrenched in the top tier.
Absolutely. Bernie is firmly entrenched in the top tier, and Democrats of the leftist persuasion love him. We had your old high school friend was on the show not too long ago-ish, and that would be Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa, a proud graduate of Whitney Young. The same year, I believe, Ish graduated. They're classmates. And Carlos was singing the praise of Bernie Sanders, and this is like the second go-around for Carlos singing the praise of him because he supported him in 2016. And so I know almost every left of center millennial is for Bernie that I know. Okay, I can't think of right now at the moment millennial. There's most of them are for Bernie. That a couple that are talking Elizabeth Warren.
Did you see his interview with Cardi B on Instagram?
Yes, I did see that interview with Cardi B. I watched it, and I'm feeling the burn. I voted for him in 2016. I still like Bernie Sanders.
How about Cardi B? Feeling Cardi B?
I like Cardi B when she was at.
Sing your favorite Cardi B song right now.
My favorite Cardi B song? Yeah. My favorite Cardi B song is, you ready?
Let's hear it.
You got to know when to hold 'em.
All right.
Know when to fold.
Wow, I didn't know Cardi B did a Kenny Rogers cover.
Oh, yeah. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, you missed that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, man.
All right.
I love it when she sings that.
Number 1. Time for number 1. Kenny Rogers. All right, here we go. Our number 1 thing to look for tonight on the debate. Guys, you better go watch this tonight, all right?
I will watch it.
I'm talking to the listeners.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Go watch this tonight, listeners, and we'll come back and we'll have a good time tomorrow. The number 1 thing to look for, Biden versus Warren. These two, who the Washington Post characterized as longtime frenemies, have risen to the top of the polls with drastically different strategies as Biden promises a return to pre-Donald Trump normalcy and Warren argues for bigger structural changes.
All right, so let's just deal with the inherent bias against Bernie in that sentence that you just read. Bernie's right there in the polls too. They've risen. It's like Biden versus Warren. It's just like what Bernie was saying. We don't even want to. We don't want to talk about Bernie. The CNN. It's Biden versus Warren. They don't want to mention that Bernie's there too.
Yeah,
that's the bias that Bernie's talking about right there, Dr. D. You indicated it very well. You should.
Isn't in the poll Bernie higher than Warren?
I see he is.
Yeah.
He's absolutely higher than Warren. And there was a poll a while ago. God, Bernie's people were so happy. There was a poll that came out that had Bernie ahead of Biden. Bernie's people go nuts. They were calling me up every day. Ben, did you see this poll? And then the next day, Biden was, listen, here's the deal, man. You're a millennial of the leftist persuasion, basically. You're sort of cut from the same cloth as Carlos. Biden is so popular with the Democrats. He's still popular, and it drives lefties crazy. Are you ready to support Biden no matter if
I really want to hear someone on the streets of Chicago talking about Biden. I never heard of him.
Yeah.
If you can tell me where, let's go outside. Maybe we're doing the West.
Wait, D, who has come on the show that is just unapologetically for Biden? I'm trying to think.
Doris Davenport, maybe?
Well, not. She's like some Jaime Andrade? Came on, State Representative Jaime Andrade.
They are
Dave
riding
Feller.
with Biden.
We got to bring them back. They are riding with Biden. So there you go. Jaime, I don't know if you know Jaime Andrade from the north side of Chicago, state rep. And they were feeling a Biden a little bit. I don't think they've officially endorsed him, but he was feeling him. So, but your point's well taken. But somehow or other, he's like at 29%, 30% of the polls.
I don't know. Maybe here in Chicago, maybe we go around the country, and obviously these polls are, they're small sample sizes, so I could see where that comes from. But at least here in the city or in the Midwest, I have a lot of friends in Wisconsin and friends across the Midwest, and I don't hear anyone talking about Biden. Even in the West Coast, obviously, California, people have friends in Texas, friends in New Mexico and Arizona, and I don't hear the Biden burn at all.
Yeah, so. There's not a lot of talk for Joe Biden, but I'll tell you this: the last poll that I saw about Biden one-on-one with Trump, he was stomping Trump. I think Biden symbolizes a certain normalcy that a lot of people want to gravitate toward in contrast to Trump.
Well, I saw that when I was looking at the polls, isn't it? Whether it's Biden, Trump, Warren, Trump, or Bernie, Trump. They're all going to stomp on Trump.
They're all beating, they're right. They're all ahead of Trump. But the Biden one I saw was like 56-40, something outrageous. Look, it's early polls. It's very early. My question about Joe Biden is, will somehow or other he stumble, over his tongue? And listen, as a guy who stumbles over his tongue all the time, I feel for him, okay, D? So that's the part of Biden I kind of like, where, I don't know, I saw this the other day, he couldn't remember Obama's name.
That guy's a meme character.
Yes, he is a meme character, and so anyway, I tell you right now, folks, if he's the nominee, I'm voting for Joe Biden over Donald John Trump.
Those were the 5 things to look forward to tonight's debate. Go watch the debate, and we're going to wonder which Kool-Aid will Ben Joravsky be drinking tomorrow. A lot of flavors he likes, all right?
What about the Cory Booker? Leah, remember our old editor, Leah?
Man, shout out to Leah.
Yeah,
Leah,
she
you're
loved
awesome.
Cory Booker. All right, Ish, before we let you go, anything you want to leave folks with? Any news events you want to tell them? Upcoming events or laws or bills or anything? Go.
Yeah, one thing I want to remind listeners is that on Sunday in South Chicago is going to be the 80th annual Mexican Independence Day Parade. Older than the Little Village and the Pilsen Independence Day parades. A lot of people don't know that South Chicago was one of the first Mexican neighborhoods in the entire Midwest. We have one of the first Mexican parishes, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So we have, second, third, fourth generation Mexican-American families who will be celebrating this beautiful celebration. Step off is at 1 o'clock on 87th and Commercial.
1 o'clock.
So come by to South Chicago and
2 weeks in a row, or 3 weeks, or 2 out of 3 weeks parades in South Chicago.
Yep.
All right, very good. Ish, the pride and joy of the 10th Ward. Actually, he lives on the southwest side, or grew up on the southwest side, but we've stuck him on the southeast side. Ish, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Also, want to thank our guest Don Valor and Charise Williams, and of course Miles Kampf-Lassin, who from In These Times was here about 1:30 or so, and cannot let us out of this room without paying homage to the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois.
Happy anniversary, Ben.
Thank you, D. Yes, 37 years of wedded bliss for me, and my wife and I will celebrate by watching the debates tonight. How romantic is that? The pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, Dr. D. They call him White Lightning back home in Alton. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Take care.
And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com/pages/Joravsky, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Downloaders, we live stream this show Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel, and we Facebook video live stream. Yeah, get a good look at our faces and immediately regret it and go back to listening to it. At Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. We'll see you tomorrow.